Wow.
Coolio.
That was the fastest going live I've ever done.
Easy transitions, I guess.
Yeah. Well, well, well.
Oh, shoot.
Howdy chat, then I'll know. Yep, we're signed in. Cool.
I'm going to do all my stuff in the background so we're ready to go fairly soon after.
Okay.
Okie doke. I'm just doing my Andy Murray impression.
What, you're Scottish?
Eating during an interview.
Emotional damage!
I mean, that's quite normal.
Mm.
Is this wine or
For
water?
the time it is.
Let's find out.
It's 8 o'clock
Nope,
here.
that's wine.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Hello, Emperor Callet.
Howdy, Will. How are you tonight? I should probably forewarn. I do plan on drinking quite a bit. Not that that's going to make a difference to anything. He says, hey, I'm early for once. Very good. It looks like you're the first one here, too. And Danker won't be joining us, as he normally would be here 5 minutes early. But he's at Mags's gig.
Of course he is.
So, thanks. Oh, goodness. Woo! Oh, yeah. Don't forget to post.
That's what I'm doing now. That's what I said, doing stuff in the background.
Make sure that you tell him it's about Fallout. And
yes,
I'm
yes.
excited to talk about
Yes.
it. I'm so excited. I just
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Mum.
Make sure you put Fallout on there.
Make sure you put the fallouts.
The Fallouts. You know you love to play the Fallouts. I think we're all well. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I think we're all doing very well. Which I will talk about my week. Not in great detail, of course, but I am going to talk about it. It was fun for me. Pete, did you catch the TNGC?
I did not.
Aw.
I was otherwise pretty occupied, unfortunately.
Ah.
I'll tell you that off air why I've not been available for the last few weeks for that.
That's all right. We were doing it live from the hotel, and the Wi-Fi.
I know. I did see very, very, very briefly, but then I had to log out.
That Wi-Fi, I tell you what, as we say in Texas. I hope that some of I hope Nana and Brent show up, because I think they were expecting 7:30 maybe. I'm not sure. Ta-da!
Sorry about that. I thought it'd probably be best to brush my teeth beforehand.
Oh, right.
Might be a good idea,
yeah. Do the Ace Ventura. Do I have something in my teeth?
Just. Cody, I think your volume needs to go up a slight bit.
Okay, I did think it was a bit quiet. I think I'm doing this in the right direction. La la la. That's gotta be. Oh, that's probably too much.
Down.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I saw it hit the yellow. I was like, uh-oh. Whoa, Danker! Oh gosh.
Speaking of devil, when he showed up here.
I literally just said, I don't think Danker will be joining us tonight because he's at Mags's gig. And there's Danker. He says, hi, guys. Quickly popping in before the show. Mags says hi. Hi, Mags.
Tell Mags, see you next week.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Jelly.
Yeah, it's a shame that you can't be there because it would be a right old fun time with you there.
I thought.
Oh, yes, it would be.
It would help if I pulled my microphone back to the normal place.
That's what she said. But I thought, Mike,
Mind you, you'll just have to deal with the other half of my 1064. My brother.
That's it then. Okay.
That is fine.
Yeah.
Hello, Nana.
Hello.
Nana.
Be back in a minute.
That's what they all say. I still think my mic is still not quite where I want it.
I think it's about right there. Sorry,
Okay.
I mean, I am still here, but I was going to make a bad joke, but the time's passed.
Yes. I'm going to let this first set of ads play, and then I promise I'm going to check on these ads afterwards and see if I can do anything.
Yeah, no worries. Right, I've got going. Actually, I'm going to run another test file because I think you were a bit low. So.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So can I get a test?
Test.
Mike.
Test. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Right. I shall return. I've just got to go and get some cigarettes.
Okay.
That's what my dad said. And he never came back.
Thanks, Kylie. That's the joke. Christ.
That's what I was thinking because Pete doesn't smoke.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Mind you, if he said he was going for milk, I would have.
Yep. Oh, goodness. Well, I don't know about the rest of the world, but here in Ireland, it has been flippin' beautiful. And I've loved every second of it. Because we only get like 2 beautiful days a year. I think they were both yesterday and today. So, but see, Mike, you're over in a beautiful part of the world.
I am indeed.
I don't want to dox you, but maybe it's a Spanish place. So is it
Here
wonderful?
we get 2 days of rain a year.
See.
I think I might have an idea anyway, because I think last year when I was in Spain, you were telling me you weren't far from me.
I think I remember that too. Mm-hmm.
I do remember that, but where did you go again? Sorry. No, you said you was Tenerife, didn't you? You went to?
I was in Lanzarote.
Lanzarote. Oh, well, then it is far, mate. That's one of the islands. I'm on the mainland.
Oh, okay. Well, a bit different then.
Just a little bit. What it was is my mum and her partner were in Tenerife. Sorry, no, Las Palmas, the big one, Gran Canaria.
Oh, okay, yeah, makes sense.
Around at the same time that you was, well, maybe just about a week before or something.
Nice.
Yes.
What's the choice today?
The choice is a rosé.
Jam Shed.
It's called Jam Shed, and I bought it because the label is so beautiful and it's like textured, and it's rosé, and it's really nice. And I forgot where it's from. Where is it from?
And it's also musical orientated.
Yeah, which caught my eye.
Did you steal it from a gig?
I refuse to answer that.
Means yes.
Yeah. Basically, I will not answer that without my attorney.
Yes, exactly.
Quick, get Phoenix Wright on the phone.
Objection.
Overruled.
Oh, it's an Australian wine, but it's bottled in Dublin. What?
Okay.
Wow, that couldn't be the most unusual combination of all time, could it?
That is crazy.
So they just shipped the grapes over?
I guess that's what they did. That is so crazy.
Sorted the grapes, shipped them over. Then
he came in a cartons, didn't it? And then they just filled the bottles up while they were in Ireland. Okay, then gotcha.
Yeah, probably
it.
That's where your recycling goes in Ireland.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Fill it up with Australian wine.
I'll tell you, I learned a new skill this week.
Do tell.
Before Mags went live on TNGC, he wanted a beer, but it's like we didn't have a bottle opener. And we were like, oh, how are we going to open this? I watched a YouTube video for
the old corner of the table.
No, because I didn't think I was going to be good enough to do that. You take your keys and pop it up under that lid, and you pull it back, and it just went pink.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
So I can open a beer bottle with keys.
I was so glad you didn't say with my teeth.
With my teeth.
I've seen people do that.
Look, I'm from Texas. Well, if they have
I've seen
teeth.
people lose teeth.
I was going to say.
As have I.
Oh, goodness. Oh my goodness.
Right, shall we get this show on the road once you pulled?
Yep, I'm now poured. I think all of chat is shown up that's going to be here tonight.
I think probably likely, but that's fine.
No, because that's what we are. We're a podcast first. But we do love our lovely, lovely viewers.
Of course we do. So
yes.
I'll count you in when I'm ready to go. So, right, we're recording. So let's go in 3, 2.
Welcome to Rapid Reviews Radio podcast episode, I'm guessing 196. Is that correct? Woo! I got it. I pulled that one out of my derriere. I'm your co-host, Kylie Wild. I'm joined by my ever-present co-host, Pete Beckett.
Yo.
And friend of the show, returning guest, I'd say best friend of the show at this point. One Mr. Mike Tindo. Yes, one Mr. Mike Tindo.
Hello.
It's always going to be a good show when Mike is on. Because it's going to be fun. And if you haven't figured out by the title, and if you're listening to my podcast, you've probably seen the title. We're going to be discussing Fallout TV series. But
I mean, we did tease it 2 weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah,
when we were last on.
Such a tease. But what I like to
tease of all time. Just revealed all.
But what I like to do when we start out is I like to ask our guest, how has your week been, Mike?
Well, busy, because as I have mentioned in the chat before, I'm currently moving house. For definite this time, we've bought a house. So I'm currently in between working and studying as well, and in the afternoons moving boxes upon boxes and upon boxes. And as you know, as gamers, we accumulate quite a lot, especially those that love physical games. So I had a lot of stuff to move.
The problem I had when I moved house.
Oh goodness.
Most of my boxes were all physical games or DVDs.
Mine are so
It's when there's
heavy.
books as well, and the big guide books are heavy.
Okay, that is true.
Very true.
Oh, there was no light boxes, no, unless they had pillows, and then even then they had books in them.
That's because you're covering up those first editions. They need to be protected at all costs.
Super precious.
Oh yes.
Well, I kind of already know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Did you get up to playing much this week?
Me? Playing much?
I guess Tetris?
No.
Tetris with your boxes?
But Tetris with me boxes? Oh yes, definitely Tetris with me boxes. I mean, we got a small Peugeot 207 car, so, you know, we had to do a good number of trips in there.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
It is extremely hard to not go as you fit in the boxes into the car to try and get as much in as possible.
Yes. Yes. I
but
still...
as for actual video games, I've not this week.
Fair enough.
I think that's understandable.
Yes, I can remember the first couple of weeks when I moved, there was barely anything played.
Yeah.
At all.
But I did a show called Happy Hour with a guy named Max. I don't know if you know him, Pete.
No, I've never heard of him.
Please tell me more.
Okay.
It wasn't me.
How long you got?
It wasn't the fact that I met the guy and it brought him on the show.
Yeah. Again, let's reiterate the lore. Pete met the guy.
And it's only because Pete was doing me a favor.
Exactly. Now you know the official lore. It all goes back to Mike Tindo.
It does.
Oh gosh.
Oh dear.
So Pete, same question to you. What you been up to this week? Did you have any time to play anything?
I've been quite busy with work. I have played quite a bit actually, surprisingly, over the last 2 weeks. So
have you finished it yet?
No.
Oh.
I'm currently still on chapter 13. I got stuck on a ridiculously hard boss.
No.
I had to sort of take time away from the game to just
Which game
go,
is this?
okay, I need to rethink.
Which game?
FF7 Rebirth.
Oh, right, okay.
But according to...
Retreat and regroup.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. So I think I'm most of the way through chapter 13, so 13 or 14. According to the PlayStation home screen, it does tell me I'm 92% through the game. So I'm getting close. Getting close. I don't really want to talk about that at the moment.
Already got in?
52.
52. So you're looking
52.
at 60, 70 hours then.
Probably
Depending on how it goes.
Probably 60 odd hours, I reckon. But then of course, I think a completionist playthrough is like about 150 on this game with all the side quests, so not really a surprise. I don't really want to talk too much about that because there have been other games I have played.
Yes, tell us about that.
I played a small amount more of Princess Peach Showtime. Sorry,
You're not gelling with it.
I'm not digging it. I'm not digging it at all. I'm really not.
Right.
Like it's fun, but it's not for me, which is fine.
I found it very enjoyable, but it doesn't really have any staying power. I mean, once you're done with it, you're done. There's no reason to go back. And
I agree. So yeah, I won't talk too much about it. I think I talked enough about that the last time we recorded. I will do this quickly. I have been playing a lot of Among Us. Just because a few of my mates have been playing it, so just been jumping on a few games in the evening, and it's still really good fun. The main draw of the last 2 weeks has been a particular game that I may have bought called Helldivers 2.
Oh goodness.
Oh.
I need to get
So, Helldivers 2 is a very interesting concept, a very interesting game, and Kylie, I think this would be well up your alley.
I know.
It's very much on the looter-shooter side of things, although it's third person rather than first person.
Which is weird.
It's all objective-based, there's a lot of looting involved, there's a lot of fun activities to do. It is absolutely, completely batshit insane, and all for the very good. I played a couple of hours of it, jumped on with a friend from work who showed me the ropes. Haven't played it since, unfortunately, because he's been busy and away.
Yeah.
But I am getting a few people to join a squad, so there will be more to play. But I'd say so far, based on the couple of hours that I've played, this could potentially be a Game of the Year contender.
Ooh. Wow.
It's very fun. It's very, very fun.
Mind you, there's not really been much. Well, it's still early days, isn't it, for 2024? But there's not been really anything announced from Sony or Xbox or even Nintendo for any big serious contenders. So if Helldivers 2 is it, then fantastic.
No, but I'm trying to get through a bit more Helldivers, trying to obviously complete Final Fantasy before the big one comes out next month. Mike, you know exactly which one I'm talking about.
I don't.
I do, but for our listeners,
Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door remake.
Okay,
that's the one.
I thought that's what you were talking about, but I wasn't entirely sure.
So
because when you see the theme, it is Paper Mario, 1,000-Year Door, whereas for me, it's Endless Ocean Luminous.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and I did see that they posted up a video up on socials like the other day, or earlier today. So I was going to tag you in it, forgot to.
I've seen it though, so don't worry. I'm following it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's me for the last 2 weeks. I'll keep it brief. But Kylie, please talk us through your current adventures.
What? I don't know what you're talking about, Pete. I stayed at home and did nothing. No, I entertained a guest this week. I don't know. You might know him. He's only been mentioned already 3 times. Hello, Max. But I took him on a tour of Ireland, and I took him on not 1, but 2 hikes. That's 2 hikes. And he didn't hate me afterwards.
Nice.
Hello, Sinjo just subscribed. Woo! He said birds are the best. But I took Max around, showed him more of Belfast. There's still a lot he hasn't seen. And then showed him some of the north coast of Northern Ireland, which is some of the most beautiful places in the world. Stood on the edge of a cliff, took some pictures. It was great. And then we did film his show, TNGC. We filmed it live at our hotel. That was quite the adventure. We learned a few things, like what to do next time.
Did he get to visit your south coast?
Did you also find out that hotel Wi-Fi is not applicable for streaming?
Hotel Wi-Fi is it's minx. It's a little minx, is what it is. It's just
A little minx, more
yeah.
like a little shite.
That too. So yeah. So for next time, we'll probably have some kind of a more stable satellite internet or something. But
Or just don't stream at all from hotel Wi-Fi.
Well, if it's TNGC, it has to be streamed. That does have to.
I know it does, but sometimes you have to take a break.
Well. Oh, Cincho's redeemed a glass of wine, so here we go. This is for you, Cincho.
Let the chaos ensue.
And so it begins.
But because I was entertaining a guest, I didn't get to play much of anything. The last thing I played, if I remember correctly... Oh, no, that's not true. That's not true. Because the day he got back on their community night, they had the developers of Bullion, which is a little indie game. He had them... He was on Tuesday night, and then Wednesday night we did like a full... Everyone in the chat played it. Everyone in the community played it. So I did play Bullion. Bullion.
Yes.
Oh yes,
Thank
of course.
Of the.
Oh gosh.
Something cattle.
Oh.
Yeah, it's there. It's my head. I watched some of the stream. I was there.
All right. See, the problem is whenever we're playing, I can't see chat, and I hate that. People will talk directly to me.
Cutthroat cattle.
That's it.
Nice.
Mike got it. As it just says, the redeeming wines first on checklist. I agree. But it is a cute little game. If you're looking, especially if you want to not co-op, because you kind of play against each other with your, like kids and stuff. Perfect game for that. It's a little fun. It's just a really good, solid, fun little. I call them time wasters, and when I say time wasters, that's not an insult. That's a praise from me. Because time sink is what it is. You just kind of waste some time. Yeah, I love that.
Pastime, to pass the time. Like a crossword.
Yes, it's much like that. Absolutely. That and drinking wine. But before that, I played, I don't know, I got lost in it. 4 hours straight of Pacific Drive.
Nice. Are you closer to the end now, or?
I'm closer to the middle. But see,
right. Yeah, okay, cool.
It's like in which we will talk about literally here in just a few seconds. In Fallout, I got distracted from the main story and just built houses. So Pacific Drive.
It's not so much closer to the end, but further from the beginning.
There you go. I like that. That's absolutely perfect description.
Sometimes it's about the journey and not the making the destination.
It's true. And the friends we make along the way. So that kind of wraps up my week. And I'm just running through my head. And yeah, nope, mostly just took Mags out to eat and on hikes, and didn't play anything.
That's fair enough. But you did do something quite major.
I'm not sure about that. You may have been playing Doctors and Nurses. That's technically a game.
That is true.
You might have also been playing the Devil's Clarinet.
Everybody wins. Everybody wins on those games. Anyway, Pete, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that you were doing something, to segue across, you were doing something quite major. Mm-hmm. We all were.
Yes. You mean the subject?
Yes, we were all watching Fallout, the TV show.
Fallout.
Hence why we're here.
Whoop, whoop. Yes.
I mean, not really. We could talk games all day, but we've not played anything, really.
Hence why you guys, hence why I'm here. You guys are always here for the stream anyway, but I'm here specifically. Specifically.
Uh-huh.
You were the lone wanderer who answered the call.
I'm here for the wine.
I'm not the hero you wanted. I'm just the hero you deserve, I'm afraid.
But yes, to introduce this to our beautiful, fabulous watchers and listeners, we are doing a Fallout TV series special. I'm a little hand the ring. First of all, I'm gonna remember how to talk, but I did have 2 glasses of wine already. So, good luck with that. So yes, for long-time listeners and watchers of the show, my top 3 series of gaming. Actually, let's reduce that down to 2 because I forgot I reduced it recently because it was Destiny. It was Halo, Fallout, and then Destiny. But I'm kind of over Destiny. So Halo and Fallout, my 2 top series. And then they came out with a TV show. As we know, okay, they came out with a Halo TV show a couple years ago, and it was crap. It's crap.
Crap is an understatement.
Yes.
That's putting it very, very, very nicely. With
Yes.
and,
It's not Master
sprinkles on
Chief.
top.
The TV show is Master Chiefs.
That's right. I don't need to see Master Chief ever naked, ever. Or without his helmet, or knocking boots in front of his true love, Cortana. I would like to never see that again. So,
I'd like to erase it from existence.
Yes, exactly.
And if anybody ever needs to see that, Rule 34 exists for that reason. Right. We don't need.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. But having said that, so when I heard that a Fallout series was coming out, everyone and their dog, who knows their dog meat, who knows I love Fallout, sent me a million links and said, "Oh my gosh, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this?"
And we also covered the announcement on the show
We
2
did.
years ago.
We did. And at that same announcement, I said, I'm done. I'm not watching anymore. I don't want to know any spoilers. I don't want to see any set photos. None of the leaks or anything like that.
But yeah, you did.
Well, I did. I couldn't help it. I did glance at the Super Duper Mart photo set. It was beautiful and perfect. And I said, okay, no more. Let's not watch anymore. So most everything that I saw was brand new to me. And then we'll move on and ask these guys about how was this all brand new to them. But in saying that, I do want to warn our listeners and watchers, we're going to try our best to be spoiler free in the beginning. We can't really guarantee that it's going to be spoiler free depending on what you view as a spoiler. Because there was a moment for me I had zero knowledge of, and it was amazing.
Okay, well, let me just preface this by saying the front bit of the show will try and stay as spoiler free as possible, but there will be a warning to state that there will be going full into spoilers later on.
But as a funny piece of interesting Kylie trivia, I wanted to say this before I handed the reins over to Pete. Because I was curious, I wanted to look up and see just how many hours I had put into Fallout 4. And I would say guess, but you won't guess it. And I've already told these two gentlemen. So I'm just going to tell you, according to as of this afternoon, I have 3,228 hours in Fallout 4. So
that's basically because you were playing it once, left the console running, and it's been running ever since.
For 152 days, I accidentally left my Xbox on. But
that doesn't surprise me with you. But also, should be noted that you've never once completed the main story.
I have never finished the main story, and I never will. But that's to answer anyone's question of, Kylie, were you excited when there was a Fallout TV series announced? I don't know. Does it sound like I was? Yes. But having said that...
No, definitely not.
I am going to pass the reins over to Pete, who will give you a little bit of a background about it. And I want to know from Mike and Pete, what were their expectations when they first heard it, if they've seen the footage out of it before it aired, and then obviously we'll go on to what we all think and feel when it aired. So Pete, your turn.
Okay, well, this is where I go full. I'm going to channel the inner Kurt Lewin and Neville watchers, and go in and basically describe that this is a TV series that was released on Amazon Prime on the 11th of April of this year. It was an 8-episode run that was created by Jonathan Nolan and Claire Kilner, who were of Westworld fame.
I have so much to say.
Had several writers involved. Including Chaz Hawkins and Geneva Roberts Derwent. Cast list for this was Ella Purnell, Aaron Motten, Walton Goggins, Moses Arias, Leslie Ungams, Zach Cherry, Dave Register, Carl McLaughlin, and various others. There are far too many characters to list down,
Yeah.
but those are most of the players. Like I said, this was an 8-episode run, and all of it released on the same day. However, it also released 2 days early than its originally planned release date. So, we luckily enough, I got to watch this whilst I was actually on a couple of days off from work, and I kind of blitzed through this very, very quickly. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike because I want to know what his thoughts are, and also to answer the question, how familiar are you with Fallout itself as an entity?
Well, okay then. So get ready. Now to say I had zero knowledge of Fallout would be lying. I know the series exists. I've seen, gameplay. I've seen, announcements and everything. So I know it exists. I know the general idea of the games. I've never once played the games. Now, mainly because I've been mainly like Nintendo consoles for the last 10, 15, 20 years. Not had an Xbox, not had a PC or a PlayStation. Well, had laptop, but nothing ever powerful enough to run the actual games. So I am aware of them. So I went into this series with not really any high hopes at all because although I'm familiar with it, I'm indifferent.
Yes.
Which I think probably is a good thing because now after watching the series, I am very, very interested in possibly jumping into the series and half tempted to get a Xbox or whatever to play the game. So we'll see. We'll see.
See, this will be very interesting, I think, because you've got Mike, who is, as he's just said, kind of unfamiliar with the series and stuff like that, which is great for me to hear because I want to hear, like first impressions and stuff like that. But then you've got me, who's absolutely obsessed with Fallout, knows the Fallout lore backwards, forwards, in between, sideways, upside down. And so I got to notice things in the background, some Easter eggs, stuff that your casual person is not going to know. So it'll be very cool, to do a kind of comparison almost from that. But Pete, what about you? What's your exposure to Fallout?
I sit pretty much bang in the middle of the both of you. So I am unfamiliar with Fallout 1 and 2 and Tactics, but I know they exist.
Right.
I know obviously they were made by Interplay and not Bethesda.
Yes.
My first experience of it was playing Fallout 3 on the PS3, and the PS3 version was kind of crap. Yes.
Right, okay.
I didn't play it for very long, but I did come back and play the Xbox 360 version and got a lot further through that, but never finished it.
Right.
Never played 4. Thought 76 was a bit of an abomination when it launched, so stayed well away from it. But I've always wanted to go back into the Wasteland at some point and play more, but obviously there's no Fallout 5, but
Not
that
yet.
may come. So this was really a nice way to sort of get a bit of a primer, essentially, of the Fallout lore, the Fallout universe, and also, from what I understand of it, this is actually more of a continuation of the lore rather than actually like a retelling.
Yes.
So quite interesting there, obviously, because it focuses on a vault that is within the world, but they do make references to other vaults around there, and obviously they would talk about 101 and 111 and all that sort of thing.
Yes, and for those out there who might follow the lore, bearing in mind, I realize I am a dork for this.
Yes.
This TV series is canon by Todd himself, and Todd we trust. It's canon, and it takes place, I think, 17 years after New Vegas, which should tell you just about, for those who know, the timeline and stuff.
Oh, sorry, yeah, completely forgot to mention, never played New Vegas, but always wanted to.
Okay. To me, now this is getting away from the subject. New Vegas is the best of the whole lot.
That's what
I
everyone
have heard
says.
good things. Yes,
Now,
New Vegas.
I replay it all the time. I've probably played it 10 times. Here's what's funny about that. I don't deviate from my choices. So I'm literally playing the same game over and over. There's so many choices, though. It branches out. You could have a different ending. I think there's 20 different endings, I think. So yeah, you could totally its replayability is very high, and stuff. But
And who developed New Vegas?
that was Oblivion. Not Oblivion, Obsidian.
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 It came out at the same time as Oblivion. Obviously, it was Obsidian. Now, when it released, it was full of bugs, and it was. I mean, it's still Bethesda. Bethesda still produced it, so it's still, you know, you're half in a rock and half not. You know, that you glitch through the ground a lot, blah blah blah. But they patched it. I would say that I am going to say this. It might be a bit controversial, but I do stand by it. It was probably released in the same state that Cyberpunk was originally released in. It wasn't good. But it has since been patched and remastered and re-released and all that kind of stuff. And it is absolutely...
It kind of sounds like another game that Obsidian did.
All of them? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the funny thing about what Mike has brought up. Okay, guys, I'm gonna geek out a little bit. Just bear with me. So Outer Wilds, which
Outer Worlds,
which Mike has just shown, was made by the same team that did New Vegas. And so you will see a lot of parallels. And I hate to say this, and I will mention Mags again. Mags told me he played Outer Worlds, didn't like it. He's probably not going to like New Vegas. It's very similar. Although I would say that New Vegas is a lot more expansive and more in depth. There's more depth to it. Outer Worlds is almost like New Vegas light. but they're very similar.
Quick question. Has New Vegas made the backwards compatibility list on Series X?
I think that it has, but they've also are working on a re-release right now that will be coming out soon. And we're all very, very excited about that. Yeah.
£6 on CEX for New Vegas on 360. Might
Well,
have to buy it.
Don't worry, Central.
Not yet. I'll go and have a look in the local one tomorrow.
Yeah, Central, don't worry. We're going to try our best to warn if there's any spoilers.
We will.
But we've not even got into the actual show.
We haven't.
Not quite yet. I'll go over
geeking
a
out.
brief synopsis soon
Yeah.
enough.
I'm geeking out right quick because here's another thing that I find very, very interesting in the Fallout lore. The team that has written this show, also did Westworld. The Fallout 4 has several references to Westworld, so they're all connected anyway. So I think they could not have got a better team to write this show. I think they got the right team. Todd Howard.
So what you're basically saying, Kylie, is that they can do a couple of seasons for Fallout, and it's best to stop there.
Yeah.
Westworld, one of the best opening seasons.
Absolutely.
That falls completely off of a cliff.
It just nosedives, just like Pete
the problem
just said.
with having absolutely no plan after
None.
season 1.
I don't think they thought they were gonna go past season 1. Is what I think.
Probably. Anyway,
but
that's
it is. Yeah, that's
obviously somewhat related.
Yeah. So I might pop up with some nerdy stuff. I apologize in advance, but we're in my special interest. I'm gonna try my best to be a good girl and not be.
Not at all, Kylie. You go full swing because obviously, the more like references and that, who's better to know than you yourself.
Yeah, of course.
They did so. Anyway, we'll get into that. Pete, go ahead. Go with your synopsis. I like what Cincho just said.
I know. So. The series is set in a post-apocalyptic, according to IMDb. I'm just going to read it as is. In the future, post-apocalyptic Los Angeles brought about by nuclear decimation. Citizens must live in an underground bunker to protect themselves from radiation, mutants, and bandits. This is set 207 years after the bombs drop on LA. And it picks up with basically the opening of Vault 33 with a character called Lucy, and the dwellers of Vault 33, as they are about to embark on a new marriage, let's say, and we'll go a bit further. We'll leave it as that, as the opening. So I actually want to go through and just, before we start talking proper spoilers, before we start going into all that sort of thing, the one thing that we haven't actually covered yet, what was our general thoughts of the actual series non-spoiler discussion? So, Mike, go on, hit us up.
Now I say non-fan, but not because I don't like it, but
Right.
because I've never actually played it or
Mhm.
had any actual invested interest in the series.
Mhm.
So to say I'm a non-fan, I don't mean oh no, I don't like it, blah blah. I just mean I've never really been fully invested in the series. But after watching it, I was hooked from the moment I started, from episode 1 all the way till the end. I just could not get enough of it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then from then, to learn more about the series, I've been watching videos on YouTube to pick up more on the lore and get a better
Yeah.
understanding of the actual series itself. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's very good to hear.
Riley?
Well, as someone who is a bit persnickety about Fallout lore, I loved it. I have noticed there's a lot of pushback on a couple of things, and I'm sure they're going to come up, but I'm going to mention this. There's a little bit of a pushback on one section of lore. And I think...
Whoa, shall we save that for later?
Well, I was just going to say...
It might be spoiler.
No, I'm gonna be very broad and not
right.
specify it. I'm gonna say that for me, I never even... It never even popped up in my head as a flag. But for me, they have... The set design is perfect. The goofy, silly humor is spot on, because that's what Fallout is. It's very irreverent and silly. It's silly. But it's also graphically violent. And they did not shy away from that. Yeah, which I love. Because you'll see that a lot. Like, series may open up with like this really graphic, first episode, and then it just kind of like, they just kind of sweep it under the rug and they just go on like it's a regular series.
Moving on.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, we got your attention now. We don't have to keep working for it. But they maintain that through the whole thing, and it's the tone of the games. The games are very violent. In fact, you can add a perk called the Bloody Mess perk, which, if you've watched the show, the Bloody Mess perk makes you go in slow-mo. You can follow the bullet as it pierces people, and it just rips them to shred. Oh, guess what? They do that in the series, too. So it's like, it is spot on for tone. It is spot on for the writing. The characterization is great. The Easter eggs, there's just Easter eggs all over the place. And if you listen really carefully, you can tell where it falls in the timeline of the other Fallout games. And in fact, there's a mention of a couple of characters that are in Fallout New Vegas. One of them being your character that you play. That's a very
wait to hear that a bit later on when we talk proper spoilers.
Yeah, that's a very cool moment when you're like, they're talking about me. My character. It's a little throwaway line that, blink and you miss it. And I'm going to say something probably controversial again, but that's me. That's what I do. I think I love this series more than The Last of Us. And everyone knows how much I love The Last of Us, especially episode 3.
Understandable.
Oof, I think this... Now, I am slightly biased, of course, because it's my top game series. This whole... I love this whole universe. But I think it's tight all the way through. It's just maintains and it doesn't fall off. I just love it. But, Pete, what about you? What are your thoughts and feels on this series as a whole?
I'm...
Still in the middle.
No, so I'm going to start with my positives.
Mm-hmm.
I think set design, music, aesthetic, they're all things that I've absolutely wanted out of a TV show for a very, very, very long time.
Yes.
It's all mostly practical, hardly any CG involved. When they do use CG, it's done really, really well.
Yes.
The music and aesthetic, the feel of the whole show is absolutely brilliant. It's really captures the essence of that post-apocalyptic vibe, whilst also having the 90s, 50s aesthetic, especially down to the musical choices that they had in certain areas. I think those were the strongest parts about it. Some of the characters are absolutely fantastic. I think they're played absolutely superbly by Ella Parnell, Lucy, and Walton Goggins, who is the Ghoul. They are two of probably my favourite characters out of TV from a very recent age, apart from one particular series that I've been watching recently. I'll get into that another time. Other than that, I think the story is quite basic, quite simplistic. There's nothing really too too particularly engaging as much with it. Like, it's an easy way to get non-Fallout fans into it as well as Fallout fans. There's no complexity, let's say. I think upon extra thought after finishing the series, some of the issues start to crop up a lot more when you think about some of the character motivations, some of the things that they do, and a lot of the choices don't tend to make that much sense, to be honest.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
There are a couple of characters that we'll delve on a little bit later. It felt like they sort of wrote them first and then wrote their motivations later, and they kind of contradict themselves a little bit after the fact. But that's without going into spoilers. But with that all being said, overall I quite enjoyed it, actually, even with its issues. There are a couple of, like I said, quite a few issues, and we'll go into those.
Yeah,
I could look over some of the issues. Some are a lot more glaring than they need to be, though.
I will definitely be interested in hearing that. Because I'm gonna 100% say I've got rose-colored glasses on for this. And my bias is strong.
Trust me,
the bias is strong.
In this one.
Trust me, I went into this, and I'm just going to put full disclosure on this. I went into this looking at the set photos going, they look gorgeous.
Yeah.
But that first and second trailer did absolutely nothing for me. I had no intention of even watching this.
Right.
At all. So when it did happen and I was on my days off and I saw it, I binged the first 6 episodes within the first day, and I was like, this has captivated me more than I thought it would. And I was pleasantly surprised. Even to the point where I'd finished the last episode and I literally just stare at the credits and was like, when is season 2 coming?
Yes, and as far as I understand, there is a season
being commissioned.
Which I think from a lot of people's theories, now this is just speculation, it is going to be more New Vegas oriented, which does make sense. That follows.
Well, we can get into that later on.
Okay, but I do really like what Sincho said, which is I feel bad for people who like the show and start off by playing 76. 76 is awful.
Well, let's just say actually that based on everything with the Fallout series, Steam numbers for all of the games, including 1, 2, 3, 4, 76, and New Vegas, have all exponentially shot up.
Great! I love that.
Was it like 3,000% or something ridiculous?
For some, I think for Fallout 1 and 2 have done. It's like a huge jump. Fallout 3 and New Vegas and 4 has been like a 100% maybe more, than that. Which is not really a surprise, but obviously Fallout 76 actually having more recurrent players is more of the shock.
I know. But I'm always glad to hear more interest, because that means maybe Bethesda will come out with Fallout 5 faster. Usually they come out with their I was gonna say Skyrim, Elder Scrolls. Their old Elder Scrolls game first, and then they do Fallout.
Yeah. So, we'll get into that, I guess. But I personally think that in lieu of a Fallout 5, I think this is essentially Fallout 5.
I could be okay with that, because I have, despite the 3,228 hours, I have recently set Fallout to the side. But now, of course, I'm gonna go straight back to it. I have to now. The Wasteland calls to me. Wasteland and Dogmeat, which I realize you guys probably don't understand when I say Dogmeat.
Screw off. Every time I saw the dog, I was like, Dogmeat! Woo!
Yeah, that's 100% Dogmeat. Dogmeat is a female, as they reference the dog as she in the beginning, and I don't know why they refer to it as CX whatever. But if you notice, again, this is me being nerdy. When they go into the town of Philly, they have a sign that says dog meat. Obviously, because they're selling dog meat, but I did find that very funny.
Yeah.
Because
fun fact, my sister actually owns a Belgian Malinois.
oh right, they're beautiful dogs. They're and smart.
She's actually got two.
Ooh.
She's got two. She's got a boy and a girl, and the
Aw.
boy he's been neutered.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he's a big lump.
Oh, they
His
are.
sister is still very, very slim.
Oh,
And it looks exactly like the CX404,
yeah,
I think, in the
404,
show.
yeah.
So
Nice.
I was very, very
So weird.
invested.
Also, fun fact: the actress that plays the shop owner in Philly
Yeah.
was the actress who played a hooker in My Name Is Earl.
Oh, well,
Yes!
I kept staring at her as in I know her from somewhere.
Yep.
I'm
It's
sure
like-
that's one of them, but
yeah,
yeah, couldn't.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of actually actors in there where I'm going, I know you from somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll drop a few very quick little kind of Easter eggs. Well, they're not really
Sure.
Easter eggs, just
Drop the Easter eggs and then we'll go into full spoilers because
Right.
it's
Okay.
killing me now. I need to talk.
Okay. It's not so much Easter eggs as to show how much thought they put into the design of this entire thing. There's two things that I was a little upset about. When I say upset, I'm being very facetious at this point. I went into I believe it was Mag's Discord. I don't think I did it the Rapper Reviews one. We were talking about the Fallout show, and I was like, I can't believe they didn't release this nobody's gonna get this, but I can't believe they didn't release this on October 23rd. So
Oh yes, you did say that.
October 23rd, 2077 is when the bombs fell and the Great War started. That's where everything Fallout kicks off. The funny thing about that is it does not look when they do flashbacks in the show, it doesn't look like it's set in October. That's a minor, tiny little thing. But that's just a little bit like I don't think October even in California is
October in Los Angeles.
I was going to say it's
I
Los
know.
Angeles in California. It is.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, okay, maybe they just had a particularly really warm.
I mean, I don't know what the weather is like in Texas during
God.
October, but here, for example, it is still very, very nice and around about 30 degrees.
I was gonna say, yeah, in Texas it's 40 degrees. Yeah.
Well, there you go. And California is probably about the same as well.
So maybe, and then my second kind of minor thing, again, we're talking clearly about the design of the show, is Ron Perlman since Fallout. I'm gonna call it 1, just Fallout original. He's always been the news announcer who says war never changes. War never changes didn't crop up, first of all. Second of all, none of the newscasters were Ron Perlman, and I was a little disappointed in that. But that is just a purely Fallout lore obsessive fan coming at that.
Maybe he wanted too much money.
I mean, that's the thing. I did
It's Ron
think
Perlman.
that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, Pete.
I mean, when he
Ron
did
Perlman.
Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, he probably asked for like 100 quid and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. But now that he's this, big movie star, it's like, yeah, unless you,
We'll see.
throw me over a few million. No,
That's true. I mean, that's true. But and yes, Brent, it looks just like Megaton. He is correct. It looks like a combination. Philly looks like a combination of Megaton and the Green Diamond or whatever it's called in Fallout 4. So it's just they've smushed together a lot of 3 and 4 for the set design, but they've done it well. It's funny
But that's
because
sort of what you encounter throughout certain particular areas where I've seen in Fallout 3 anyway, the settlements that you would find.
It's funny because when they go in the Super Duper Mart, I'm like, there's a safe to your left. Just jump the wall. There's a safe back there.
That's what I was thinking as well, knowing full well that I did that quest at Super Duper Mart far too many times.
It's like, just go to the left. But the hairstyles, that's what I'll leave it at that. Every single hairstyle that they show, especially in the vault, but even out, and not just the styles, but the scars, and when she gets the dark circles under her eyes, those are all in the cosmetic menu. I recognized every single one of them. That is how much attention and care they've put into this show. And I'm like, I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of it. So that's my little nerd out moment. But Pete wants to go on with the actual story, so I'm going to let him. Go for it, Pete.
So, yep, we are going to proceed into spoiler territory. So, obviously, if you have not seen the show or have not seen beyond the first episode, please leave now and come back and listen to this, obviously, when you have watched the series, because we cannot be held accountable for spoilers at this point. So, you've been warned.
Full spoiler cast mode activated.
Yeah, wow, it felt like a real Synthcast moment. It's like, ooh. Okay, Centro, thank you for tuning in. Yeah. But yes, no problem. So, yeah, as I said when we was doing the synopsis, this picks up obviously with Lucy in Vault 33, along with her family and the overseer of the vault, which is played by Carl McLaughlin. About to oversee a wedding between her and another individual from Vault 32, which is the interlinked triplet of vaults with 31, 32, and 33. You don't know much about 31 at this point, but usually what happens is someone from Vault 32 comes over to marry into Vault 33 family to then create a new, new children, so that they're not interbreed. Essentially, yes. And it's at this point where we got one of our first laughs when obviously when they're opening the door to Vault 32 and her Lucy's cousin is basically proclaiming love for her. Yeah. And she's like, well, this is not a very good way for reproduction. Cousins, sleeping together, which is not wrong. But yeah, I thought that was Rotherham using.
They have rules about that for a reason.
Though.
But it's
when you think
it's fun when you're kids. Even then.
But wait, when you think about it, wait a minute. This might have been a joke that I didn't catch early on. If cousins get together, because I'm from Texas, the joke is always that their children will be mutants.
Oh yeah.
And then we have,
however,
Vault
not the super
4.
mutants.
No, not the super mutants. But then I was thinking of Vault 4, and I was like, maybe there was a joke there, and it went over my head till now.
There probably, it probably is, but still. So, before that, we obviously got like a little bit of an introduction into life in the vault, where Lucy is pretty much telling you about her upbringing. The fact that she pretty much excels in nearly everything that she's done, including combat and education. She's obviously picked her points in the right stats. So.
Okay, exactly, Pete. Pete has said one of the things that I found so funny. When you choose your character in Fallout, no matter what, Fallout 1 through, whatever. I was going to say 4, but even the offshoots. You have to put your stats in, and it's called your special stats. Now, each letter of special stands for something, but it is copyrighted from somebody else. There's a whole long story on that. But I did notice in the intro for Lucy, she's kind of going over each of her individual special skills, and I absolutely love that. That was another one of those little details that
it was very. I noticed it as well. It was very cool, actually.
Yeah, it was very cool.
So we come up to the point where the door opens, and you can see that something's a little bit. And this was telegraphed to me, unfortunately, is that something seems a little bit of a miss with the people from 32. But anyway, they proceed on, and Lucy gets married to one of the inhabitants of Vault 32. They have their wedding, they have the ceremony, and then he unceremoniously takes her back to her living quarters.
Yes, and
consummate the marriage. Can
I say one thing about the whole consummating marriage thing that they got so right?
Yep.
I'm not against female nudity. Everyone knows this. We're probably going to talk about that in the future because there's a game coming out that's very controversial, Stellar Blade, blah blah blah. We'll talk about that later.
Yep.
I embrace female nudity, but can I just say the opening scene, no female nudity, but complete male nudity? I liked that. I mean, obviously, but I mean more because they spun it on their head, and I really enjoyed that they did that. That was a very cool thing from me, my female point of view. So I thought that was cool.
Okay, I mean,
Pete's like, okay,
I'll be honest, I've got absolutely no problem with male nudity whatsoever. I thought it was obviously, it's eye candy for everyone that's watching.
That's great.
It would have been nice to see a little bit of female nudity, but
you
that's
get
just
that
my
later.
bias. Let's be honest. I'm also not gonna deny as well that Ella Purnell is a very attractive,
she's very
young actress, and
it's weird though. She's very attractive, but not in a glamorous. She couldn't survive in the wasteland way. Does that make sense? It's almost kind of a natural beauty.
Well, this
natural beauty, yeah.
Yeah.
I might bring this up a little bit later, but we'll talk about that a lot later on. Let's say.
Okay.
So yeah, the consummation of the marriage is where this all starts to proverbially hit the fan.
Yeah.
And you start to notice that something is very wrong here, because actually the dwellers of Vault 32 have actually been usurped by raiders, and those raiders are coming in to come and destroy Vault 33 and its inhabitants. And this is where Lucy gets into a fight with her new husband and kills him, or attempts to kill him.
I was gonna say, yeah.
There is a big fight. I quite like this actually, because it showed that she was resourceful. She had to fight smart, not trying to overpower him. Because he clearly had the advantage on that side. So she had to use her skills, which actually pretty typical for how the games would be.
Yes.
So yeah, pretty decent, not bad. Obviously, everything goes completely amiss with everyone else, because there is a huge fight that ensues over 50s music, and it captures the whole aesthetic very, very well. But then this is where things start to become awry with her brother, who starts to feel that there might be something amiss with Vault 31 and 32, and there is a mystery that ensues throughout the whole of the series that occurs from there. But he ends up losing his job after he allows her cousin loses his job after allowing Lucy to leave the vault and venture into the wasteland, which was where my first biggest disappointment is that episode 1 should have ended there.
They all blend together.
What with a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild moment, basically, coming out of the vault.
Essentially, yes. But I felt that they should have just ended the episode when the door opened, and then it should have just picked up with episode 2 being a little bit longer and going, okay, this is now venturing into the wasteland.
I can actually see your point, Pete. I can. But I will say definitely on 3 and 4. Definitely on 3 and 4. That is very similar to how they start. You get the bright white light, and your eyes have to focus, and then you continue on to your first mission.
I noticed that straight away with how it was with Fallout 3.
Exactly. Like, I do think it's an homage, but I do see your point, Pete. It does make sense as a stopping point there.
The blinding white light should have been the reason to stop, and then it sort of like comes in, like with the episode 2, it just comes into focus as she walks out a little bit further. But they venture into the wasteland. I can't remember actually. Is it episode 1 where they first introduced Maximus as well?
Yeah.
They introduce all the characters.
All the characters.
Okay, yeah. So they obviously I've sort of skipped over the very opening actually, because actually it's set pre-war. And it's set at a birthday party, which involves Walton Goggins' character, which I cannot remember the name of, so I'm gonna have to look. It's Cooper Howard.
Cooper Howard, and you know they named him Howard on purpose. Todd Howard.
Of course they did. Yeah. So Cooper Howard is an ex actor, but you don't know that at the time. But he's currently doing some shows. He's doing a birthday party for someone, which turns out that his daughter is actually involved with someone there. At the birthday party when the bombs go off, and oh my god, what an opening! I thought this opening was superb, like especially the tension that was set. It was the Last of Us vibes that I had with the TV show and how they led into that, and it sort of sent the chills down your spine. Especially the line where he's explaining to his daughter, it was like, if the explosion is over the size of your thumb, you should be worried, and then you literally just puts her thumb up really slowly.
Smaller than your thumb,
you should run.
And if it's bigger than your thumb, don't bother.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
bad.
then she just slowly puts her thumb up, and it's like, oof.
Yeah, she's like,
Yeah.
your thumb or mine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it was massively intense and not a great opening to the show because it sets up, obviously, there's something more about Cooper's character as
Well,
well.
Mm.
Mike, though, I would like to know your thoughts on that whole opening, because you really didn't know. I'm making a huge assumption here. You really didn't know what you were in for. So what did you think
Not at all.
when you saw this kind of weird, like there's a Mr. Handy robot in the beginning, but they're having a birthday party,
Yeah.
but it looks like the 50s, but it's not. It's
It,
you know.
well, this is the interesting thing because obviously I watched it. I didn't know what I was expecting. And it's like, yeah, there's a couple of things that seem a bit of miss for me. It's like, okay, so this seems like very, very 50s. So is this the 1950s?
Right.
Not having any basic knowledge of the actual series itself. No, it's actually more 2057 or
2077.
2077.
It's 2077.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's 2077 when the bombs come off, but then
Yeah.
it's like, no, it's at least,
Yeah.
100 years in the future. And
It's what
it's
they
set in this
affect.
universe.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
what they
sorry,
affectionately call retro-futuristic.
And
yes.
I want to hear Mike's opinion, but after that I'll let the audience know, and obviously these two, why it's retro future. There's a reason why. But anyway, go ahead, Mike. Yeah, so your impressions.
And I think I'm about to touch upon that. The reason is because certain things didn't happen or certain events.
That's true.
Which
one very huge event didn't happen.
How is it? So I think like it's not so much the Cold War or something like that. That
No.
didn't happen, or the
That-
missile crisis, and then so everything just went more, the direction that they decided to go in. So it's still, Watergate didn't happen, for example, and stuff
Right.
like that. And then that's what kind of like keyed it onto that. And then as you're saying about like that retro future, it's very, very similar to like Alien.
Yes.
Which was
Oh,
obviously
God,
one
yeah.
filmed in the 70s, wasn't
They have
it?
the
It's like you've got
70s, yeah.
CRT screens and stuff like that in this futuristic world. And it's like, well, now we have curved flat screens and stuff like that now. But back then, it's what they had. So it's an interesting combination of, like futuristic and like 50s aesthetic, along with the music as well. So, but then I watched a series before called The Man in the High Castle.
Oh yes, yes. No, alternate history.
Which is basically, I think that's set in the 50s or 60s. So it's like a few years after
the war.
everything that's happened in the events of World War II and stuff like that. But anyway, moving back to the actual show itself. So yes, I thought it was quite interesting. There were things that didn't quite key into in the beginning, but then after watching the series and then learning more about its lore, it's go, okay, so that's why. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thoroughly enjoyed like the introduction of these characters and learning about the Brotherhood of Steel and the Raiders and what ghouls are and things like that. And same again after watching the series and think, okay, so what is a ghoul? Why is he here? And hey, he looks like that guy from the beginning, and stuff like that. It's like, well, how long have you been around for, and why? Which is one of the things, obviously, they explain a lot more in the series as it goes along, which we'll get into a little bit later. So we'll carry on with the spoilers, but we'll gradually break people in. We'll go episode by episode.
So the kind of demarcation where the history split is in the early 60s. Believe it or not, all of both universes' histories all exactly the same until the early 60s. Because our current life, current universe, we discovered microchips, little tiny microchips.
Yep. In
Fallout Land, they never discovered microchips. So all they ever had was vacuum tubes, which you'll see is a scavengeable item in Fallout 4. Anyway, so only having vacuum tubes, never discovering microchips, meant that a lot of their technology, on one hand, did move forward, as in they have the Mr. Handy robots, and they have these really cool cars, and they have all this really cool robotech stuff. But they never got the little tiny microchips, so they don't have like little tiny cell phones and little tiny things like that. So that's the big demarcation. And of course, the space travel then obviously would be very different because America was leading the space race. Russia was leading the space race, and then America zoomed ahead again because of microchips. in this version of history, they were the equal. So, so that's what you're seeing, and then obviously they bring up a lot of communists and stuff like that, because, as Mike kind of referred to earlier, the Cold War didn't happen, the Cuban Missile Crisis didn't happen the same way, and in fact, the whole 2077 thing got kicked off because Russia invaded Alaska. Which you'll hear a lot about Anchorage. That's an entire DLC in the actual gaming universe. And they did it perfectly. They talked about the Brotherhood. Well, they didn't. So the Brotherhood of Steel, as Mike mentioned, they're a little bit confusing. They recover old tech because they don't want old tech lost, but they don't think that old tech belongs in the hands of the common man. But you'll see they're very iconic armor, which is probably the T60 is probably the most iconic.
In this one, it is the T60 because I think the Ghoul does actually mention about the T45 as well.
Well, see, that's what I wanted to say. T45 armor was created by West Tech, I believe, and that's who fought in Anchorage. So that was before the Brotherhoods were even formed and all this stuff. So you start to see these chess pieces start to come into play, and what you find out is, and I'm sorry for anyone out there who doesn't like politics, but what you come to find out is that capitalism is the key to every single move that is made in Fallout, the TV series and the game. And in fact, they make reference to capitalism a couple of times in the TV series. So I know a lot of people don't like politics in their fiction, but Fallout is a very political game.
It is political.
It is very, very, very. But I think they've handled it very well, because it's entertaining. But if you look below the surface, you know what they're really saying. But if you don't see below the surface, you can just entertain yourself and have a good time.
Of course.
It's not really subtext because it's
It's pretty in your face. It's pretty in your face.
Yeah. So, moving on, because obviously... Karen.
But then again, like, because it was, very, very heavily influenced on the 50s and that, it was very, very much the theme at the time as well. It was very, very political. It was very, very anti-communism.
Yes.
And if you didn't like the way that capitalism was back, you was a communist. It didn't matter.
Exactly.
It's just like, yeah, maybe not. Now you're a commie. You're a filthy commie.
You're a
like,
pinko commie, as they said. Yes, that's right. Yeah,
I think one of the things was better red than dead, wasn't it?
Yes.
For the communist side, wasn't it? And
better dead
they had
than
all
red
the things with
Joseph.
better than red, and the Joseph McCarthy and the moral panic they had within Hollywood and all that. It was just it was a mad time in American history during the 50s and 60s when all of that was happening.
Yeah, and I almost suspect that the writers of the original Fallout, including Chris Avellone, who is a wonderful writer, I think they must have grown up either in the 60s or because their parents were boomers. It was very influential because
probably
you can tell a lot of the Cuban Missile Crisis if you go back and watch YouTube videos about it or see the kind of like stop, drop, and roll or hide under your desk. There's like a turtle that is a little icon, little like kind of like Mickey Mouse, kind of like this, a spokesperson.
Jump
icon.
into your lead refrigerator. It'll
There you go. Exactly.
We'll discuss that in a bit because that might be something that happens.
That's funny because that actually happens in the game, but a little bit different. But anyway, yes.
Anyway, so we did make mention of the Brotherhood of Steel, so this is the perfect time to bring up Maximus. He is a so there. If you don't know much about the Brotherhood, you have the Knights and you have the what do you call
Squires.
The Squires. Sorry, thank you.
Then,
the Knights.
There's like
then you got the
aspirant.
Not the anointed. What is it? Something that begins with A.
It's aspirant.
That's the one. Aspirants.
They're nothing. Yeah. They're low rank, and then you get promoted to Squire, then Knight, and then I forget the top dog's name. I forget his name.
I'm not too sure, but so Maximus starts out as an aspirant, and then he
Paladin. That's it, Brent. Thank you.
Okay, Paladin. Brilliant. Thank you, Brent. So he starts out as an aspirant, along with his friends. They're going through their general training, and obviously they're not going anywhere. One of them then gets the chance to join to become a squire, and injures himself maliciously, with a razor blade in the boot, and then blames Maximus on it.
So, and I want to hear you guys' opinion, and I might sneeze here in a sec. Yep. Sorry. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mike. Thank you. But that was a plot point that never resolved, unless I missed it.
It never did resolve.
There was
It was
no
one of the
resolution
unlingering.
to that.
It was one of the most unlingering plot points that never got resolved throughout the series, and actually, I think it was also kind of stupid as
Brent
well.
says I missed it. So, and Mike's
You
reaction.
did miss it, yes.
Okay,
You did miss
okay,
it. It
okay.
was very mentioned very, very briefly, but we're going right, I think, episode 7, episode 8.
7 or 8, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
we'll get into that in a bit.
Yeah,
we shall, but like this is where I have a bit of an issue with that particular side of things, is that how did they manage to get the entire boot on without noticing there was a razor blade in there? I think that was a bit far-fetched to me.
There's
like they would have
lot
noticed straight away, like especially down the Achilles, like it was.
Yes, exactly.
It would hurt like absolute living hell. So
and you don't
it seems a little bit strange.
Yeah, I found that.
Yeah, but then I think that's what they get to at the end of the like 7th or 8th episode anyway.
Right,
so
okay,
we'll get onto that a bit more. That gets cleared up a little bit.
But as a result of this malicious injury, it then means that Maximus gets promoted to Squire and is dropped into the wasteland along with his knight. And this is where he starts getting treated like absolute dog crap. Because this is setting up the relationship and the dynamic between the knights and the squires. The knights are literally the ones who walk around in the power armor, and the squires are the ones who carry their equipment, and they are basically lower than dog turd, let's say.
Yeah, and that does feature.
They
in the
are
games.
the golfers' caddy, and
yes,
yeah, that's a heavy bag that they got to carry.
That is a stupidly large bag.
But I will say that squires do feature in the game. They are.
Yeah,
and they're usually very, very young boys, though, like 12, 13 in the game. Yeah. But I was glad to see that kind of hierarchy. And I'm also not going to lie, it kind of took my breath away to see the Brotherhood of Steel's airships and their little drop ships. Even though they're not rendered any different than the game. Obviously, it's probably the same files even. But that's not true. But it still was just like, oh my gosh, to see that with actual actors, and stuff. It was still just like, for me. But that's being a super fan nutso.
Yeah. So I'm going to move very quickly on because obviously, like we've covered only the first episode and we're quite far in. So Maximus gets dropped in. We'll cover that back in episode 2. Yeah. At this point is where, at the end of the episode, we're introduced to the Ghoul, where you see, obviously, he's been living underground for quite a while. He's got some sort of injections going in, and he's awoken from slumber. And this is where you find out that he is an absolute boss. And my God, Walton Goggins is just superb.
He is.
He is the absolute draw of this entire series for me. He is the standout player. Your attention is drawn to him every single time that he's on screen. His presence really dominates most other characters, and I've got no problem with that because he's fantastic. And that it's not CGI'd as well. That's all prosthetics, face, everything. It's unbelievable. Like the job that they did with the ghouls in this. Apart from the nose. The nose is the only thing that's CGI'd.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I don't think he actually did Michael Jackson on himself and has a detachable nose.
Yeah.
Or a Daniel Westbrook.
They did very well with that. Well, see, I was looking forward to how they were going to do the ghoul part because, I have 2 points. One, I don't know if it came across enough, and I'm hoping it did. Mike would love to hear what you think. There are 2 versions of ghouls. There is ghouls who obviously, much like Coop, has been around 200 years or more. And then there's what we call feral ghouls. They're the ones, especially in the game, there's no more sentience there. They're gone. Yeah. They're
zombies. That a bit. We get those later on in the series at Super Duper Mark, don't we?
Yes, exactly. And I was a bit worried that that didn't come across because they are actually all ghouls, but there's a genetic factor, and you can't predict it, that makes some ghouls feral and some ghouls not. And that's a big thing in the
Well, the
games.
way they dealt with it in the series is that the ghoul, or Cooper, or Coop, as he's referred to,
Yes.
he has to take a special chem, I believe they're called.
Yeah, that's very
in the game.
interesting. Because he does take. I'm not sure what he's taking because that's not really found in the games. But it looks very similar to the drug that's known as Jet, but it's enhanced. So I want to do some more research on that. I thought that was an interesting thing.
I think it's something that they might end up bringing up in season 2, actually, like
Right.
because they didn't really explain it particularly well, like what it was
didn't.
and what it did.
Yeah.
So it might be something that they sort of just was like, right, we'll leave that lingering in case we get a season 2, and we'll cover that in a bit more detail.
I do have to say that drugs feature heavily in the Fallout games.
Yeah,
Go to bed, okay? Don't do drugs.
Exactly, don't do drugs. But that is heavily. It's a huge part of the storylines, because really what Fallout is doing is it as a series, it's experimenting with people's mindsets after apocalypse. And a whole lot of the population, they just want to get high. That's it, because they're like, we're at the end of the world. I don't care.
Of course.
So that.
Want to get high? Just a little high.
Just a little high. I love Tally. But what I wanted to say, just as a nerdy thing, is my absolute favorite companion in New Vegas is Raul the Ghoul, who is played by Danny Trejo.
Nice.
I wish, I just maybe on series 2, if they just, yes, I would be so happy. And he actually carries a machete in New Vegas. I would love if they could just get him in as Raul the Ghoul, just for a little appearance.
That would be cool as hell. But we'll that might happen, considering what happens towards the end. Anyway, so let's just start moving through the plot a little bit more quickly, because it's been quite a while. So we have a moment, obviously, where Lucy does makes her first encounter in the wasteland, which happens to be a very sick old man who tries to get her to stay with him whilst he's dying. And I have a small issue with this scene.
Okay.
He's not nearly rapey enough.
Oh, well, okay. No, okay, so my first thought...
Let's be honest, she is a very attractive, clean-looking young lady.
Yes.
She would be pounced on by nearly everybody out in the wasteland. It is a lawless hellhole. No, I know, but it is a lawless hellscape. Where out of context, that sounds incredibly terrible.
But yes, I'm gonna back up Pete on this, because we're talking about a society that has completely broken down on the surface. It's complete. There's no law.
They use caps for currency.
Exactly, and
they use teeth for bullets.
Yes, that's a good point. So. To say, people might misunderstand, but we're being very realistic here. And she is a very slightly built young lady, healthy, clean, as Pete has said. She doesn't actually encounter the R word as often as you would think in real life it would happen. I don't know how else to word that, but that was something, again, as a female. Now, obviously, I'm a very capable female and quite strong. Yeah. But it did cross my mind. So Pete's not that far off. It even crossed my mind.
No, it was a bit strange to me that it wasn't more advancing, let's say. And he might have been dying. He might have been like, yeah, I'll take my chance. But he's a really lonely guy. But you would still think that not seeing anyone for probably a fair few years.
Right.
We all know what some people like after a fair few minutes.
Or
You
some
ready
of
to go
us,
again, love?
some of us after
So,
13 years.
any, anyway, so yeah, little bit strange in terms of the lore context there.
Yeah.
I thought it was probably a little off, but that was probably,
It was intentional. I know it was.
let's say age rating wise, they probably wanted
That's
to dumb it down a
exactly
little
it.
bit. They didn't want it to be an 18 rated show, but yeah, in terms of the actual world believability, it sort of took me out a little bit.
I will say that there are moments kind of similarly in the games, but they're handled very well. So I'm not going to say, like, don't worry, you're
Yeah.
not going to be triggered or anything like that.
No, of course
but
not.
they are handled quite well.
Okay.
And stuff. So.
Right. So I want to move forward very, very
Yes.
quickly into certain key scenes throughout most, because I think we've covered episode 1 in vast majority of details. So what we're going to do is we're now going to split this into 2 sections, essentially, where we're going to talk pre the bombs and post the bomb.
Oh yes, my
So
favorite.
let's talk the story of pre the bombs going down in 2077 and the story with Coop and the communism side and obviously the grand conspiracy that leads to the war.
Yes.
So what did you think about all of this? Because I'm not gonna lie, I found this probably the most intriguing part of all of it.
I'm gonna let Mike go first because I'm gonna nerd out. So Mike, you go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes.
I found it probably the most interesting because obviously I think that although Lucy is foreseen as like the main protagonist of it, I think it's more the Ghoul that's got more character development, and it's like, why has he turned out the way that he has when 200 years ago he was this relatively nice guy and he would give thumbs up and everything was great and wow and everything, and then all of a sudden he's just over the ravages of time, he's just gone this complete opposite direction to himself. So yeah, it was very, very interesting to actually learn as to why the bombs dropped in the first place, why everything has turned out the way that it has, and then what is Vault-Tec's whole deal with everything, basically.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot, obviously, of the lore with Vault-Tec. I know that obviously they're seen as probably the overarching evil within the vast majority of the Fallout world, and I think a lot of the lead up to it was obviously going to, like, the payoff for it for me was always going to be that they were going to be the instigators of essentially what happened. They were leading up this way. It was telegraphed pretty early on for me, and it was quite obvious the fact that his wife was obviously going to be one of the instigators of one of the true conspiracies. Like, and she was trying her damnedest to, quote, protect her family, but also bring about the end of the world at the same time for pure profit and pure gain. Like, it was kind of it was a far too telegraphed for me. It was the fact that she was getting him involved in Vault-Tec commercials and the whole line of the communist angle of trying to get like that line within the movie that he was working on, and obviously going to that the actors meeting as well with Moldova. And I think this is where I've got a big problem with it, is that it was too obvious, it was too telegraphed, it was just a bit too but in these sorts of situations, like, it's understandable. You've got them interchange between, like, before the war, after the war, it's leading up to the story, it gets to that point, quite well, I guess. And it does have a situation in the moment within episode 6, I think it is, that has probably one of my favourite characters in the whole series, Matt Berry's character.
Okay,
and the
so
fact that
yes,
he voices
Codsworth.
Yeah, he is brilliant.
Mr. Snappy or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and then obviously you have his introduction, and then it's obviously the Super Duper Mart episode where he's walking around trying to harvest organs, and it's really superbly done, and probably one of my favourite moments in the series was the Super Duper Mart.
That is one of my small gripes with the series, because it's like she comes, obviously the Ghoul drops her off, doesn't he? He kidnaps her and then drops her off there, and usually to get drugs, so he can stay in his obviously humane before, so he doesn't go completely feral.
Right.
So then she gets dropped off, and then like, obviously you got Mr. Snappy there, and he's like, "Oh, hello, how are you? Welcome to here, and let's get that finger looked at for you." And then it's like looking at your finger, and then she starts warming up to him and saying, "Oh, I was thinking I was going to be sold here as a sex slave or something." He goes, "What? Don't be ridiculous. We're here to harvest your organs." And it's like, "Oh, okay."
So.
And that's what I
So
loved
why
about
you
it. The
put a
comic
finger
timing
on
was
me?
well, the comic timing was just perfect for it, and it's very, very typical of what Matt Berry is really like anyway.
So that for me is before we went live, I think, or maybe early when we went live, I was talking about there was one moment that was just a complete surprise to me because I avoided all spoilers.
Yeah.
As soon as Matt Berry's voice came out, well, it was on the speaker, but then when I realized he was coming out of a Mr. Handy, I went nuts. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's Matt Berry. How freaking perfect.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know that beforehand. I probably checked it out in the trailer, but I didn't pay much attention to it.
He's not mentioned anywhere. It just blew me away. I was so excited because I do love Matt Berry. But it's funny to me because when she talks about the sex slave that she's like, oh, I thought you were reading. That is an actual mission in Fallout New Vegas, I believe. Because
to become a sex slave.
Yes, you wear a collar and a bondage outfit. So Fallout
in the late 2000s, I guess.
Yeah, it's just that's Fallout lore.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. Yes. And then I think
cancel culture hadn't quite arisen yet.
Yeah. So for me, I found it funny because I knew what they were referencing, and stuff. But hands down, when I heard Matt Berry's voice come out of that, I was so excited, and it really that was a complete surprise to me. And then obviously he shows up. I say later, but it's a pre-war.
Well,
moment.
It's actually before that Mr. Handy scene that he's introduced properly, and then it goes into the Super Duper Mart where he's obviously voicing the Mr. Handy.
And he only made like $147, which cracks me up. All of that. I think the Matt Berry thing was done absolutely perfectly, brilliantly.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Codsworth in the games has a British accent. But I don't remember. I don't think the voice actor is actually British. He also does Nick, which is another character in Fallout 4.
Okay.
So I don't think that he's British. I'm not sure, but Codsworth does come across as British. So to have Matt Berry, an actual British actor, doing Codsworth's voice was just it was. And it's Matt Berry, who is just amazing.
I wonder if he got paid $147 for this.
Maybe that was it. Maybe he was telling on himself.
Maybe a couple of zeros afterwards.
I was very thrilled about that part. The thing that I don't like, this is a very minor thing about the Super Duper Mart, is there wasn't that big of a conflict, if you know what I mean. Once
considering how big the Super Duper Mart is within Fallout 3 and what goes on in there wasn't enough really that happened.
There wasn't very much that happened there. Because even in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, Super Duper Mart usually has a hidden thing. What you'll find, and this is what I was going to say earlier, Vault Tech is behind a ton of stuff. Even the Super Duper Mart. So you've got your, Vault Tech, West Tech, and Robco. They're your three main capitalist.
Oh, they're all featured within that boardroom as well, where they're talking episode 7, aren't they?
Yes, which again, a lore specialist thrilled me to death. But having said that, the fact that Lucy just walks in and she kind of just puts the two druggy guys. I think they're fiends. Fiends is from New Vegas, by the way. They are just druggies, is all they are. But I think she the ghoul describes them as something else. In the games, they're just druggies is all they are. Oh, cannibals! That's what they call them. They call them cannibals. No, in the game, the cannibals are called cannibals. The fiends are just druggies. So that was a little bit, kind of took me out for a moment. But she didn't really, she just kind of came in, and then what they didn't show, which is something that you can do in the games, you can reprogram the robots, any hostile robots, you can reprogram them if you have the skill, and they'll come fight for you. They don't show her doing that, but that's clearly what she did. And I'm a little disappointed in that, because I don't know how that went for, let's say, like Mike, who may not know that lore.
I can't say I knew that either. Yeah,
that probably didn't come across. All of a sudden, he's kind of talking gibberish or whatever. Mr. Handy, I mean. Snip.
Yeah.
It's because she's reprogrammed him. But they didn't show that. And that was kind of weird to me. That part was a little bit weird.
It's almost like they did it off screen, and it would have taken too much of an explanation to try and get around that. It's like they went for style over substance in that one. And it was like, oh, this is clearly an Easter egg and a nod to the fans who would get this, but actually probably should have explained it to the layperson, because the vast majority of people who are going to watch this are general people, and they should really explain a little bit more parts of the lore a little bit more intricately, rather than just use it as a basic cameo or basic Easter eggs, essentially.
I was overall, when I say I'm disappointed in the Super Duper Mart, I still loved it. But to me, it was very weak in comparison to the rest of the story, because that is such an iconic, it's an iconic spot in both Fallout 3 and Fallout 4.
Yeah.
It was certainly the weakest point in the story.
I think so.
And like, anybody who wouldn't get the reference for it was like, okay, this is just a throwaway scene.
Yes,
maybe
exactly.
a general reference to the game, don't know. But then like hardened fans were looking at it and would be rightfully disappointed, thinking, you know, this is actually a bigger part of the games, and then they didn't do much with it.
Yeah. It's an absolutely huge part of the games. And another thing I was very disappointed in, now that, again, this is just me and being a lore dork, is when Coop, the ghoul, comes in, he just starts taking all these drugs. You don't know. I know what he's taking, because I recognize what they are from the game. But the average watcher doesn't know what he's taking. Yeah. On top of the fact that he's taking his drugs that are to keep him from going to Feral, which is not canon, by the way. Well, it's canon now, but
it will be now,
Yeah. But he's taking tons of drugs that are featured in the game. But you don't know that. You just think he's just taking generic whatever. But I know the things that he's enhancing his stats, and he's enhancing, you know, his sight. He's enhancing his sense of smell. He's enhancing his strength. I know this. The average watcher doesn't know that. And then they're wondering why he passes out. If you take too many drugs in Fallout, you pass out.
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't really get that myself either. But yeah, it's sort of... Now that you explain it, it makes a lot of sense. Like, and that's what I mean. It's that some things within this are clearly like just the nods to the fans more than anything. They should explain it a little bit better. But I'm going to disagree with you on one thing. I don't think the Super Duper Mart is the worst part of this series.
Really? Okay.
I actually think
weakest part.
I think the weakest part actually is when Lucy and Maximus go to the other vault. I think that is incredibly crap.
There is one part there that I don't understand.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Yes.
That is what I think.
I wonder if we all agree. I think we're all going to agree, but go ahead, Mike. There's a part that I'm like, what?
Now that you brought up Fault 4, then yes, I can totally agree that is definitely the absolute weakest part. I think when we were talking about the Super Duper Mart, and like how much of a significance it had, I find it weak in the sense that they could have done more with it.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just a complete throwaway sequence and completely unnecessary.
They wasted a whole episode on that. It was just ridiculous.
I mean, okay. Again, I'm nerding out. I do apologize, but also I don't. So what we find from Vault 4 is that first of all, let me back up a little bit and be sure that Mike and Pete understand this, and our listeners and watchers. You guys do get, obviously, that the vaults were never intended to save humanity. Each vault was an experiment.
Yeah,
hope that's okay.
I know that part of the lore anyway,
Okay.
based on what my experiences
Yeah.
with Fallout 3.
There's like 4 in total out of 180 vaults or something like that. 4 in total that were control vaults.
Yeah.
They're every one of them were experimental. So
I mean, you get that in episode 8 as well, where they're obviously, or episode 7 or episode 8, where they're telling
7 or
about
8, yeah.
selling the vaults off and they can use them for their own gain, basically.
Right. So
Okay.
this particular vault, Vault 4, pre-war, Coop is, before he's a ghoul, he's filming a commercial, or maybe not a commercial, but like an instructional video or whatever, with the Hawthorns. The Hawthorns are 2 scientists, it's a little scientist family, and they're in charge of Vault 4. Now, what they're doing, which in the lore we call the forced evolutionary virus. I'm sorry, that's being very nerdy. They don't call it that in the series yet. I bet they do in the second one, though.
Yeah.
But it's the FEV. Just in case you're wondering, it's the FEV. Which means that they are injecting normal average people with this mutating virus, and it forces mutations on them. And then, we go through this and we figure out, the mutants are actually the original people from the vault, and the descendants is the mutation getting out of their genetic code or whatever. All that's fine. But they make it very ominous. So Lucy and Maximus show up, and they give you all of the like horror vibes, like, oh, this is bad. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're in danger. Oh, this and that. And you're kind of like, oh, this is bad. Come to find out, they've never been in danger from moment 1.
At all. No.
Yeah.
That was weird. But I could...
And even then when she discovers the secret and then they go and take her out, like, looks like that she's going to be murdered. And then it's just like, yeah, we're going to cut you loose. You can never return to this vault. It was like, oh, it was so boring.
That reminded me of an episode of South Park when the president of the Canadian TV station decides to cast Terrence and Philip adrift.
Yes,
literally, they're on an ice float and they're just going out to sea.
Yeah,
it's cutting you off.
It's exactly. They're like, okay. She's like terrified they're gonna kill her, and he's like, "We're returning you to the surface." Ah.
Well, it's even when it gets the saw thing, isn't it? And then it lifts it up and then cuts the rung.
That was, I'm going to admit, that did make me laugh. But here's the part, and I think, Pete, you're going to totally agree with this, and Mike, I bet you do too. Maximus goes and he steals the
power core.
Power core, fusion core, which is an element of Fallout 4. You do that a lot, and it does power the power suit. So he steals it, and then they walk out. But remember, they're not being held prisoner. So they walk out, and then she's like, "You have to return it." And he's like, "Okay." Why? What the frick was any of that? Like, there was
It was pointless. It's totally pointless.
There was nothing to that. There was no story substance. There was no payoff. He stole it. He didn't need to. And then he returned it. He didn't need to.
I mean, from his point of view, it doesn't make sense. From hers, I can kind of get, because obviously, without that fusion core, that vault, the people there are going to die, because obviously the fusion gives them unlimited energy, and without it, they've only got weeks or months.
Yeah.
And she's like, says, I want to rescue my father, but I don't want to kill an entire community in order to do so. That's not
irony, but yes.
So I get it from her point of view, but then it's like his point of view, and it's like, I mean, unless it's because he wants to get his leg over, but then even still, he doesn't even know what that is.
Yes!
No, I mean, they even specifically have that line of dialogue where he doesn't realise what sex is, does he?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Like... Okay.
It's like it becomes like a pimple and stuff comes out the end of it.
Yes, that is not like. Don't get me wrong. The Brotherhood is very religious in that, in their structure.
Yeah, but
they're also not virgins or whatever.
You also see it in the first episode. There is a guy in the Brotherhood of Steel who is jacking off.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. That's very true. I have to say that their handling of the Brotherhood of Steel, I don't think that the writers quite got the concept of Brotherhood of Steel. And in fact, at one point, they have Maximus explain to Lucy the point of the Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pointless. It's basically what he says. Which tells
Much
me...
like most of Maximus's story, to be honest.
I'm not going to disagree.
He's the weakest character in this whole series.
And I think he could have been the strongest. I think the writers never got the concept of the Brotherhood of Steel, which is a great faction. It depends on what game I'm playing. Sometimes I hate them, and sometimes I'm align myself with them. It depends on what the game is. But the writers never really grasped the Brotherhood, and you could tell that, you could feel that.
Yeah,
and yes,
I agree.
I mean, first of all,
yeah,
Maximus,
because it seems like from Maximus's point of view, I mean, he was this young kid who was saved by them, wasn't he? So if we go back a little bit,
yes,
when the bombs fell on top of Shady Sands,
and I do want to
come
talk
out of
about
the
that.
fridge.
Wait,
and then
he got
up.
saved by the Brotherhood? I didn't know that. It's not like they showed it several times over, was it?
No.
Jesus.
So it shows why he has such admiration, and basically he wants to be in the suit because it's so cool. And that is basically the general gist I got from the whole Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Still, you just want to be in the suit, you look cool.
I have to agree. I have to agree. That's exactly how it came across. The funny thing is, the whole fridge thing pops up twice. Once in New Vegas and once in, I think, Fallout 3. And one of the in Fallout 3, a ghoul child hides in the fridge, and he's been hiding there. You don't know how long he's been hiding there, but you can escort him back to his family, which is all ghouls. Non-feral ghouls, and it's a great little quest and whatever. And some people who are psycho, they kill the whole family and blah blah. There's several Let's Plays where they do that. I don't do that because I'm weird about games. But then in Fallout New Vegas, they have this perk called Wild Wasteland, and you can find a refrigerator where, funnily enough, a skeleton with an Indiana Jones hat is hiding in the fridge.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So
why would anyone reference that terrible movie?
Oh, I know, right? Exactly. So when I saw
the only good part about that film, I think that was pretty much it.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, it didn't take too much of a dump on Indiana Jones like the fifth movie did. Anyway. But anyway, there is a comment from Brent Here's just involving Maximus. It says Maximus and the Brotherhood are supposed to be the neutral party, counter to Lucy being good and Ghoul being evil. However, I just don't feel that they executed that very well.
They didn't.
Because
exactly.
Maximus has a moment where he's treated like absolute crap by his knight as a squire, and then he goes and treats, like, you'd think that when he becomes the knight himself, he wouldn't treat his squire like complete garbage, but he does.
See,
but
he just falls into the same trap.
That's the same guy that beat the crap out of him in the beginning of the
series.
I
agree. You would think that his experience would have just, would have changed him, and especially with him being out on the wasteland. Hello, Jack. But yeah, it would have changed his experience. But then I think some of that they did it for comedic value, and it just didn't really go anywhere. And then they had like the situation in episode 7 where they get caught in the traps, and he goes back to the Brotherhood. I think they didn't really have a payoff to that as such, apart from the guy getting the witch doctor basically making him unkillable.
Yeah,
to some degree.
The chicken lover.
Yes, that's it. The chicken lover, which is a very interesting thing.
Yeah,
it does show though Fallout is silly in that way, and I find that funny. But I will forever say that the weakest part was the Brotherhood of Steel, and was specifically Maximus, because I'm telling you, as a person obviously immersed in this lore, they treated Maximus like crap since the minute he entered the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
That would not happen in the games. In the games, the best way I can describe it is the Brotherhood is almost Catholic, as in it's very everything is very structured, very rote, very, everything. They wouldn't beat up an acolyte.
No.
It's very strict and very, that's the whole thing. So I am disappointed in that they did not handle the Brotherhood well, but I go back to my previous point of the writers never understood the Brotherhood.
Yeah, I probably have to agree with you, but that then leads me into the question of when he goes back to the Brotherhood after being discovered out in the wasteland, where he misses out on finding the cold fusion technology, and it's been told that he's obviously helped to kill his knight.
Yeah.
Would he have been killed, or would he have been saved?
First of all,
for his absolute betrayal against the Brotherhood.
That's the thing. Okay, so first of all, his original betrayal. We'll go back to when his knight fell with the Yao Guai.
Which was Michael Rappaport, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny to see that.
Who was also in My Name Is Earl.
See? It's littered with like all.
In fact, I'm just going to call this episode "My Name Is Fallout."
Had that happened in games, if he could prove that he approached the Yao Guai with honor and tried his best to defend his knight, he would have been okay and fine. I don't know that he would have been promoted to knight, but he would have been okay.
Yeah.
Later on, as the other stuff starts to happen, it just would not have happened. They're very structured. I call him Dance Pants. His name is Paladin Dance.
Okay.
But in Fallout 4, he's probably the most epitome example of a Brotherhood of Steel knight, which is they are I forgot his name. Lancelot. They're Lancelot. They're the
leader, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Maximus to me is not characterized well as a Brotherhood. First of all, his character is just wrong, and then to see the other
characters, ambitious.
Yes, and yes, exactly. And the other characters beating him up, that's not gonna happen in the Brotherhood. They're like ride or die. They're very,
Yeah.
So I
think that's probably one of the reasons in the series with I'm going to say the leader of the Brotherhood of Steel, because I think he sees something in Maximus and sees that the Brotherhood of Steel, as it is at the moment, is not working. So I don't know if there's just somehow the structure is just not there anymore. And he wants to create something new. And it's like, okay, because you've got ambitions, and I can see that you've got ambitions, I want you to help me with creating this new world, which is like something which he basically says in like the end of episode 7 or the beginning of episode 8.
He does, yeah, before the assault on the Griffin Observatory.
Now, the interesting thing about that, Mike, is that in Fallout, actually, I would say 3, New Vegas, and 4, the Brotherhood starts a kind of civil war almost, but not like they're fighting to kill each other, not that kind. But they have completely different ideals. So your interpretation is actually kind of in line with the story. So it kind of makes me go, oh, that might actually work. Because you've
sometimes an outside perspective always works.
Yeah, that actually works. Because one of the paladins, the leader, he wants to go a non-violent direction, and the other one says, no, we should go violent. And they split off. And then you have two kind of... They don't ever war because they do see each other as a Brotherhood. But one of them is very similar to what Mike has just said, which is...
But they have diametrically opposed in terms of belief, basically.
Exactly. So
that has happened a lot over the centuries in real life as well. When taking religion for example, so like you say, we got the Roman Catholics, and this, then one part says, you know what, we're not too aligned with what you're saying. We're going to become Lutherans now, or we're going to become
exactly that.
What I mean? Everybody then starts diverging.
The evangelicals,
Yeah.
Evangelicals, exactly. The Mormons, everything starts branching off. It's the same core religion.
Exactly.
They all believe in God. They all believe, in Jesus Christ and everything. But it's like
they split.
The more I'll say grassroots appeal of a religion, you know, dealing with your fellow man and how you see each other as a person and stuff like that and their ideals. Not so much, I mean, everything's all the core, you know, you've got the Holy
Yeah.
Trinity,
Yeah.
in every religion. But then it's like, how does that affect us as like priests and those that follow us, our flock,
Yes.
and how they deal with that kind of thing? So, you know, but that happens with all factions and,
It
you know,
does.
people having the same ideals and then all of a sudden, no, I want to go left, you want to go right. Well,
Yeah.
Exactly
artistic
that.
differences.
And I go back to the writers did not grasp that concept.
Sure.
I think that Brotherhood is a lot deeper than they realized. And
Yeah.
so they didn't handle it well, is my kind of conclusion on that.
Yeah. Okay, right. So let's just streamline because I'm very aware of the time that we've spent on this so
Yes.
far and how we're running short.
Yes.
Let's get into the assault on the Griffin Observatory by the Brotherhood of Steel and Moldaver's people, and the revelations from there. Obviously, this is where one thing falls very flat for me, unfortunately, in terms of the lore and how they set everything up, and it's almost felt to me like they had one particular moment set up ready to go, then they had to double take on themselves. So you remember the fight that the Ghoul has with Maximus in Philly, where
Yes.
Maximus is obviously using his power armor, and then the Ghoul happens to remember that there is a flaw only in episode 8, but doesn't remember it when he's fighting Maximus. It's almost like Maximus has plot armor, and it's absolutely effing ridiculous that he only just remembers it then when it's convenient to the plot.
Exactly.
And it's been revealed in the pre-war sections, obviously, when it leads up to it. Kind of a bit in terms of continuity, doesn't work for me, unfortunately. And cool, aesthetically cool, good looking, you know, very in tune with the VAT system and all that that they have in Fallout 3 and 4. I get that, but in terms of a plot device, complete crap.
I mean, he does say at one point that he wore, and I'm talking about Coop, he wore the T-45 armor. So he would know some of the weaknesses, but the T-60, which, let me say, there is at least one generation in between that. There might be two.
Is it the T-50 and the T-55?
Yes, which you can get in Fallout 4. So, you know, that's still a big gap right there. But he might still know some of the weaknesses. But having said that, when he was fighting him originally, he only picked up on one of the thing, which is the air tube on the side.
Yep.
Again, features in game. So I have to agree. I found that very odd. It's like they forgot the origin of each character, and they were only dealing with who they were in that moment. If that makes sense. That's how
100%. It's like they had a cool moment in mind, and then they didn't actually fix the continuity later on down, like in the earlier episodes as a result of it.
Yeah.
It's like, we want this moment that is cool, and that's it.
Yeah.
And because they obviously hadn't set it up in the pre-war section, they couldn't reveal that earlier on. But that's an unfortunate side of having good writing, I'm afraid, is that you should telegraph that earlier on by stating that there is a fatal flaw, and that he chooses not to use that weakness against him because he can see that he is relatively new to the Brotherhood still and the armor set itself.
That's basically what Jack has said, Jack Tino. I think it was a case that the Ghoul didn't need to because he could tell Maximus was a noob. And, like, I think he even makes a comment in reference to him being...
I think he does,
you know, something like a beginner or something.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. And I just... Yeah, it was disappointing. Yeah, full on, yes, because the armor itself is such a strong part of the Fallout lore.
100%, yeah.
And yes, I was absolutely excited when Maximus got into it and it just like formed around. I was like, ah!
Yeah, it is cool, and aesthetically speaking, it was very well done within the show.
And kind of referencing to what you said earlier, Pete, I think that they thought oh, this is going to look cool, but they didn't think of the storytelling behind it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was style over substance more than anything.
I'm gonna have to agree with
True,
you
but
there.
then again, I mean, if he'd mentioned it in the beginning to Maximus, it wouldn't make quite as much of a scene later on when you've got the rest of the Brotherhood up against it, the Gaul, just a single Gaul,
Yeah.
and he's like trying to get into their heads and goes, yeah, that big, bulky armor that you've got, that's actually got a fault in it, and I know how to exploit that. So it's kind of like getting under their skin, because even though they're in this great big armor, and they feel really, really strong, and they're going to take out one single person. It's like all of a sudden they think, oh crap.
And
Yeah, but it also, like,
I
as a
can
result,
see why. But
Yeah.
it limits the power level and the intelligence that the Ghoul has throughout the entirety of the show by doing that, because it makes him look like a bit of an idiot in the second episode by doing, in retrospect.
I will say one thing that they did.
But then he had only just woken up from a 30-year nap or something in a cemetery.
That's true.
So you may have been a bit foggy on the details.
Okay.
But I do like so obviously all of the different versions of the armor are featured throughout the whole Fallout series games.
Yeah.
But Fallout 4 is where you actually get to step into the armor. Yes.
And I remember that section actually,
so
seeing
exciting.
it on the game.
So exciting. Especially for a lore nerd, because then you get to learn about the different types of armor.
Yeah.
But there is what was funny to me is because my brain just kind of automatically jumped into the action, where Maximus and his squire, who I've for some reason forgotten his name, and he goes back. And I was like, don't turn your back to him. Don't turn your back to him. Just from the game. And he grabs the fusion core and he takes it out and he's like frozen. Yeah. That is actually very true to the game, because in the game, the raiders get their hands on usually T-45 armor, the lesser, quality armor. And all you have to do is either shoot in their back to shoot that fusion core out, or you can take it out and they're just stuck. They're just stuck there. So I found that very funny, because that is an actual reference. That is actually how they do it in the game. And my brain was still going, don't turn your back to him. Don't turn your back to him. So they handled that little minor part well, but I think they forgot to follow it up.
Agreed.
Yeah. It just, if I have any complaint about this, it's just they really dropped the ball on the Brotherhood of Steel, from the armor to the lore. They just did. And to Maximus's character, I actually think that Maximus' character could have been the strongest of all the characters.
He ended up being the weakest as a result.
The weakest, yeah. And Coop actually ended up being the strongest. Kind of echoing what Mike said, which is he was almost the protagonist rather than Lucy. Even though I did enjoy Lucy, and I think they got her character very well. I just think they failed Maximus is kind of what I think.
Yeah, I didn't really particularly like the payoff that it had at the end, obviously, where he gets completely knocked out by Kyle MacLachlan's character, and yet he still gets knighted as Knight Maximus, which was completely stupid.
That's just...
I really felt completely unearned, actually.
Yeah, I never sat well with his entire character and that part either, Pete.
Yeah. And also, I felt that the turn that they had with the Overseer himself being the main antagonist throughout the whole thing felt a little bit cheap to me, considering all the incredible crap that Moldava had done across the wasteland. And she got off really light on this one. She got off to be the genuine hero by introducing the cold fusion to the rest of California. And how the hell would half of California from the Griffin Observatory have power when all the power lines would have been absolutely ruined?
Okay. So, nerd out for a second.
Okay, because I want to know if there's anything in the lore that would state what the hell happened here, because it didn't make a lot of sense to me.
What happened was, because remember, this is 17 years after New Vegas. The Hoover Dam, I believe I've got the right one. The Hoover Dam in Las Vegas powers that whole western side of the U.S.
Sure.
In Fallout lore, the NCR fought a battle, I believe, with Caesars or Kaiser, Legion for who owned the Hoover Dam.
The dam.
Once they get the Hoover Dam, they can give electricity, to most of their settlements. But then there's a solar array towards the south, which you have the choice of running. You can run all of the power to California. You can run all of the power to New Vegas, or you can split it among both of them. I always split.
Okay.
Because I'm nice. But that right there is kind of what I think they're hinting at. Even though it's solar power versus cold fusion, I think that's the parallel they're drawing from the game, because you have that choice. And but the funny thing is, in the game, the NCR, who runs California, it's the new California Republic. They've almost completely brought California up to modern standards.
Okay.
And I find that very strange that this show is set 17 years after New Vegas. And yet they're almost regressing, if that makes sense. And that's kind of the impression I got from the end, is that they're regressing. And I just couldn't get onto Moldovar and all that. Like, I was almost there. But if you go by the games, they're so much more advanced. They've got electricity again. They've got, functioning societies.
Yeah, I can see that from New Vegas itself. It's still lit up pretty much, like,
exactly. It's a completely, like, people go there to gamble and have a good time, almost as if it were modern time. I mean, it is modern time, so you know what I mean. So I'm not sure. I'm not a fan of the way they handled that. In comparison.
Yeah, I just don't think it was. It wasn't set up well. It wasn't explained well. It was almost like they fumbled the end because they had to get through a payoff, basically. And I think possibly if they had an extra episode, they might have set that up a little bit better.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you there, actually. Believe it or not, I'm going to agree with you.
Because it was all set up that this was Shady Sands, and obviously in New Vegas, Shady Sands was established. It was an actual city, town, whatever. And then it's like in this game, it's been in the series, it's been devastated. And then you learn that it was Lucy's father that was behind destroying it in the first place.
Yeah,
which is again a very strange thing for someone like me, because the overseers had power within their vaults. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Outside of their vaults, oh no.
Yeah.
The wasteland ruled. That's the whole, point. This man.
So it makes you wonder, where did he get the bombs from, or who is he also correlating with? I mean, obviously, the reason why he bombed it in the first place is because his wife decided to take the children now and found out everything that was going on.
Yeah.
Which is why he bombed it, so then his kids couldn't leave. So very selfish of him.
It doesn't really follow reality. I mean, I know we're in a fictional universe. Yeah. But there still has to be a logic to the fictional universe.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there has to be logic. There has to be consistency within it. There is rules that you set within the confines of your world, and it didn't follow that rule. And it leads me on to my biggest disappointment of the entire series is actually the conspiracy of Vault 31 is actually such a damp squid. It's just so crap. It's so crap. Like, they lead it up to be this huge conspiracy, a huge problem, a huge issue, and yet, like, they have so much intrigue throughout all of it. It's like, the overseers have all come from Vault 31 and all of that, and yet...
There's no payoff. There's none.
There's no payoff at all, and it's so incredibly dull and unfortunate. Like, it's like they had an idea, and it just... I don't know how it was going to work in actuality, but I guessed it straight, like, almost within episode 4 or 5, and it was just like, it didn't pay off very well at all, and the fact that the Overseer himself was an antagonist throughout all of it, it didn't sit right with me at all. I know, obviously, Fallout 3, there is a huge thing about, and in Fallout 4, that actually you go off looking for a family member, and it turns out that they're actually a huge piece of crap, like... You know, they've
Unless you
been
side with
involved in
them.
some pretty terrible stuff like over the years. Isn't it the what was it? Fallout 4 is the Boston Institute of Science, isn't it?
Yes, that's 4.
And yeah, they they were involved in some pretty heinous stuff, but it telegraphed it far too early. It telegraphed it far too badly, and it just the payoff for it was just so weak and I'm sorry to use the word piss poor.
Well, I mean, but I actually don't disagree with you on that because the overseers being the antagonists of any Fallout game is very common. That just that little chunk. But each of the vaults is like its own little world, if that makes sense. That little world...
you get that impression with 4. You get that impression with 30, 31, 32, and 33. It's that they're a community.
Yeah, exactly. So to have any influence on the surface, it is very strange. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel correct, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because yes, there are some vaults that do trade with raiders, but that's like the extent of their surface interactions. The fact that McLean had this like crazy like power over the surface, it never made sense to me. It doesn't make any logical continuity sense.
And that moment where Cooper goes into Vault Tech himself in the pre-war, and you know full well that the guy who's wanting the autograph is going to be him. It's so
set up that
obvious.
way, and then
and then the fact that they didn't really explore Moldover's character either, because when she's first introduced, she's like this ruthless killer. Yeah. Which is fine. That's very Fallout. That's very Raider.
Yeah.
All of that is fine. But then we see her pre-war and she's an intellectual, whatever. Okay. But then we see her at the end and it's like
sympathetic hero.
Yeah, and it's like I didn't follow that evolution quite.
It didn't have that evolution. There wasn't enough scenes with her to form that. Like the only thing you get is exactly. The only thing you get is the 3 scenes and a lot of exposition. And a lot of the exposition is that she is a horrible, horrible, nasty piece of work who will do anything to find this cold fusion technology, and essentially is willing to screw over the Enclave to get what she wants.
And see, that's another thing that I was a bit disappointed in.
The Enclave are not handled at all.
They dropped the ball on Brotherhood. Oh, they didn't just drop the ball on the Enclave. They fumbled it, fouled it, threw it in a ditch, and lost it 20,000 leagues under the sea.
They didn't just fumble it. They lost 20 yards on that one.
Oh,
that's back to first down. Like, that's 4th down and friggin' 50 yards.
It's the Enclave itself could be a mini series. That's not a joke. The Enclave lore is so fleshed out. It is what you would call the secret American government, the shadow government almost.
Which they probably may explore more in the second season.
I hope they do.
I
hope they do, because almost all of the technology, the FE virus, which creates the super mutants, that came from them. The big scary monsters that all of a sudden I can't remember the name of. They're the scariest ones in all of the games. They would terrify you. They're the Death Claws. Yes, I don't know why I just blanked out on that.
Funny enough, I had a conversation with a friend yesterday exactly about that same thing. So.
Yes. Well, the Death Claws come from them, and they're terrifying. They are just a terrifying entity because they're completely powerful. They're living in a post-apocalyptic world, and they have all the technology. They're not the Brotherhood with the past technology and the whole dedication to mankind. No. The Enclave is terrifying, but you don't really get that impression in this particular series. I do hope that they explore that in the next series, because the Enclave is just, it's terrifying. Just full stop.
Sure.
how powerful
Well,
they are.
Jake has got to be running to somewhere, so perhaps that's where he's running to.
I mean, yeah, I
Okay.
think you're right.
I think they might be right, but there's two comments here actually about the Moldava from Jack Tendo. Says, to be fair with Moldava and however it is spelt, it's almost like her three scenes are reflective of the three paths, good, evil, and neutral, and how she's
Okay.
portrayed in each scene is represented by each main character interpretation within their scene. I can't disagree with it, but
That's an interesting
I
take,
just
for
felt
sure.
like they fumbled the ball with her story. They probably should have had more scenes with her that sets up this idea of her being
There's
good
no
think-
real
to some
character
degree.
development
Yeah,
with Moldova. And on top of that, they don't explain how she is in the future. Unless she
Right.
got into a vault as well and was in cold stasis. Because, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's been 200 years, and we find out that the big secret of Vault 31 is that they were all being basically kept in cold status from, you know,
Yeah.
when the bombs dropped. And then they were just released every now and again to, you know, help
yeah,
keep things
take,
in check.
yeah, they become the overseer of Vault 33 and then make their
Yeah.
way out into the world.
It's very strange. That is strange. Although I do like Jack's take on it, and it will cause
Yeah,
me
I
to
agree.
rewatch this.
Okay.
But the funny thing is that this is a perfect reflection of all of Bethesda's games. Actually, well, I would say their most recent ones from Skyrim. You get a bit of it from Oblivion. You definitely get it in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, and Fallout 4. There's no good guys. There's no bad guys. Not in any of them.
It's all morally ambiguous.
Absolutely. And you have to pick a side. You always come to this point where you have to pick a side. The reason why I love New Vegas is there is a third option, which is called the yes man option, which makes
of course.
everyone happy, which is my favorite one. But that's a very, like, they do that to that specifically. But you can watch as their writing matures and everything like that. They're very much like, there's no good guy, there's no bad guy. If you're going to pick this side, you're going to have some bad stuff happen. If you pick this side, you're also going to have bad stuff happen.
Okay.
And I almost wonder if Moldova is almost a reflection of that, but they just, again, didn't flesh it out enough, type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so because still saying it, we've gone long. Let's do a little brief wrap up. We'll start with Mike here.
Yes.
Give your final thoughts on it, what you generally thought, again, for those who might have gone too long, didn't read, basically, and give this a rating out of 5 or out of 10, however you do on Mike Tendo 64.
Okay, well, on Mike Tender 64, we've done away with ratings for a long time ago, but I will definitely give it a, you know, up there, a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Okay, fine. You're gonna have to go with the rapper reviews 5 out of 5 then.
Oh, goodness.
All right then, fair enough. Seeing as I'm here on the Rapid Reviews podcast, only makes sense. 5 out of 5. I will just say, dialing back on to the whole reason why Maximus got in the suit in the first place, or, you know, got given the reason to become a squire, is because, now I'm going to get this wrong, because now I know you said before it was a guy. I think it's Dale. I think their name is. I'm going to say they.
Dane,
because
and
I was given more the inclination that they
Yeah.
were female, but you referred to them more as a male. So I'm just going to say
They're-
they, so I don't, you know, fall
they're
down.
referred to as they in the series. They're called they, and
Yeah,
it's
okay.
Dane. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dane. So basically, when Maximus returns to the Brotherhood and they're like going to execute him, or they got him on trial, and she pleads to keep him alive and says it was it was them that put the knife in the boot, the blade in the boot, and cut themselves.
That just doesn't make sense to me.
And basically because they were scared of actually going out into the wilderness. So it does feel a bit weak there, but it was
sorry,
explained.
that wouldn't happen.
Not in the Brotherhood, that would not happen. But
no, but like when you were saying,
catch,
like,
though.
okay,
Yeah.
how did they get their full foot into the
'cause
blade or not? I mean, obviously they knew, maybe they cut themselves, then put it in, took it out, had it there. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they did themselves.
I know, but it was just such a weak source explanation of how they done it, and they set that up like in the first episode. They paid it off in episode 8, and it was still pretty poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Pretty much. But anyway, other than that, and a couple of other weak moments, but then what series doesn't have its weak moments and its strong moments? I mean, like you said, with Halo, The Last of Us was also a very good series. I haven't seen it. I've seen a couple of the episodes. I haven't watched
it's
it fully,
good.
but that as well has its weak moments, has
It
its strong
does.
moments.
Yeah, it's called The Last Episode.
Yeah,
It's true. He's not wrong. That's true.
even like the big motion pictures like Super Mario
Oh
Bros.
yeah.
Now, that was a brilliant film, but that also had its weak moments,
Yeah, it's called The
mainly
Story.
called Seth Rogen.
Yes.
Seth Rogen and the lack of story.
True, true. But other than that, on the whole, I thought it was a very, very good story. I liked the fact that it didn't take any particular characters from this series, but was built in the world.
Yes.
And I think that's what helped people
Mhm.
and viewers relate to it more, because it's not like it was the main protagonist from Fallout 4 or, like you said, like New Vegas. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, they would never behave that way. That's not how I portrayed the character in the games. So, but going with a completely different character, and then introducing the Ghoul and then their backstory, and they basically becoming the strongest character out of them all, which is interesting because Walton Goggins is never the most important character
Right.
in anything that he's been in.
No,
He's always
he's
usually been a bad guy, and a pretty weak one at that.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's great to
Yeah.
see him actually
Ant-Man
get
and the
some
Wasp.
limelight and actual, protagonism for a change.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But what's your score?
I'm gonna have to go with a 5, I suppose. 2 thumbs up.
It's a very Fallout thing.
Yes.
Well, I know Fallout 1, isn't it? With
Yeah, exactly.
We'll
Yeah.
give it. We'll give it so.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go, Cardi, or do you want to?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna mirror the sentiments mostly from Mike. It has a fair few weak moments for me. I'm probably a little bit more unforgiving of those weak moments because tonally, consistently, and in continuity, I think a lot of the payoffs didn't make a lot of sense. They felt a little bit flat to me. The journey is definitely a lot better than the destination, let's say. And
I agree with that.
I enjoyed my time with it. I can't say that I didn't. Aesthetically speaking, it's beautiful to look at. It's very well shot. It's very well dialogued. There's some really good humor in it. Like, it wasn't too cringy humor. It was silly. It was very in fitting with the Fallout nature of the show itself, like the games and tonally. It's just some of the mystery was superseded by the fact that there's the payoff to the mysteries were kind of crappy and just really disappointing for me. So I'm gonna give this I'll give this a 4, and this is a very low 4. Let's say it's verging between 3.5 and 4 to me, but it does make me excited enough.
It's in between a Fallout 3 and a Fallout 4.
It's in the New
So
Vegas,
New Vegas,
territory.
yeah, exactly.
It's in the expansion territory,
Exactly.
shall we say? Yeah. So, but it does make me excited for a season 2.
Yeah.
I will be checking this out in a couple of years. Obviously, once it's made and finished and finalized, I'm not too unhappy with going back to this. I will be happy to return to this world, let's say. But it is not the best series that I've watched this week.
Ooh. Interesting. I assume there's another podcast about the series you've watched this week.
Incorrect. I'll just say it was Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso is fantastic.
Right. Ted Lasso, it's good. Well, as the 3,228 hour Fallout player,
I'll give this a 3,000.
I do feel that there is a portion of this that is a love letter to Fallout. It's so amazingly crafted, and the minutia, even, from the sugar bombs and just all the background, the curtains. Like, if you're me, the floor patterns, the curtain patterns, the wallpaper, all of that, and it's all there. But here's a side thing that is not a Fallout thing. It's just a Kylie thing. So I'm really big into mid-century type aesthetics. In fact, all of my dishes are from 1968, a certain pattern from a certain creator. This is how nerdy I am. I recognized the plate patterns that some of them that they used in the show. I knew who did it. I knew what pattern it was. And they weren't wrong. I mean, obviously they're doing from 1968 as opposed to, 2177 or 2077, sorry.
Yeah.
But it is retrofuturistic. That attention to that much detail means so much to someone like me, a nerd like me. The vault walls, because there's a DLC in Fallout 4, which I spend a lot of time in, where you can build your own vault. The bottom half of the walls have a blue stripe on them. And then the middle walls don't have any paint. And then the top walls, I think, have a yellow stripe. Well, guess what? All of the background vaults, the walls, follow that exact pattern. That's such a dumb thing, but such a big thing. Like, they put a lot of care and attention to this. I cannot fault them for that. Or vault them for that.
I knew you were going to say that. You beat me to it. God damn it.
But having said that, yes, it is absolutely a love letter to Fallout fans, except they never quite grasped the Brotherhood. I will say that Brotherhood is not... some people would disagree with this. It's not the biggest faction. It is a faction that has been there from day one. But it's never in the top of the factions. There'll be like a one or two, and then it'll be three. Usually the third faction. But they never quite grasped what the Brotherhood was about, which to me is a very important part of the lore, because there's a lot of honor and a lot of, I don't know, dorky stuff that's really involved in that. Yes. And they never grasped that. I also think that for some reason, Coop is actually the protagonist. I don't think they meant for that to happen, but it did happen.
Yeah, it did.
Lucy's great, though. She's great. I like that they made her attractive without being overly Hollywood glamorous. But I'm glad that they used an attractive female, because there has been, and again, I'm pretty sure me and Pete are going to talk about this in the future, there has been a kind of backlash where they want to make a lot of the female protagonists not attractive. And I get their point. They don't want to objectify, blah, 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 blah.
But they're happy objectifying men.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think what it is they're able to have a woman in it who is relatively attractive but not overly sexualized. I think that is the problem that they're having with a lot of modern games and programs and films and things.
Yeah,
it's overly
absolutely. Like, she's not at
and
any
I
point.
think Ella, I mean, she is a lovely and attractive woman, but at least in the show, she wasn't, overly sexualized. She's not in a low top constantly. Nope. She's not walking around in a thong all the time. You know what I mean? She made the boiler suit look good. Yeah. But it wasn't to the point where you're sweating.
It's pretty tight. Pretty tight.
Yeah. She's in the right places.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not exactly
not too tight.
But not.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's not over the top. It's not, let's say, Pamela Anderson in her heyday with it slightly unzipped. No. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. Speaking of which, but you know what I mean. I love the way they handled that as a female who is a gamer, who is on the internet, and for some reason, like I said, there is a backlash against attractive females, because they don't seem to understand it's okay to be attractive. Just don't be only purely a sexual object. And she never comes across that way. Even in the absolute, what they are, which is sex scenes in the beginning, it never feels lewd.
Yeah.
She's in control. She's the one, like...
Yeah, I agree.
Even though he turns out to be a kind of liar and all that kind of stuff, it never feels like she was taken advantage of. She was in control the whole way. I love that. Let me see more of that.
Kylie, did you lose the point of too long didn't read?
I did. So I think it's pretty obvious. I actually enjoy the series very much. I want to see more from it. I actually love it more than The Last of Us. I almost said Left Behind, which is a Christian. I grew up, as people know, it's a Christian apocalyptic thing.
I think we're going to agree on that one. I think I enjoy this more than The Last of Us.
I do. Now, having said that, episode 3 of The Last of Us still remains one of the most beautiful artistic pieces of television and storytelling I've ever seen in my life. Having said that...
Yeah, it's great, but I'll talk about that in the post-show.
Yes. But having said that, as a whole, I think
Some of us need to go to sleep, Kylie.
I know. I think Fallout, the TV series, is wonderful, and I am going to give it a 5 out of 5 with the hope that any of the weaknesses are corrected in the next series. So that's me.
Cool.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. So let's wrap this show up because 2 hours and 20 minutes on this.
I know.
So this
I'm
is
so
a long
sorry.
one.
I knew that was going to happen.
I apologise for this. So Mike, as we're short on your time here, please thank you first of all for joining us on this venture into the wasteland. And
thank you very much for having me.
So much fun.
It's always a pleasure.
Do you want to take this time to plug your stuff, website and any upcoming articles or whatever you've got, in the works?
So I am one half of Mike Tendo 64. Mind you saying that, we're a game of 3 halves, really. There's me, there's my brother, Jack, who's the editor-in-chief and basically the one that runs the site now. And then there's also our top reviewer, Jonathan Ober, who is also a friend of the show and also writes for Rapid Reviews.
It all comes full circle.
We're all friends here.
Yes.
So we.
No, we're not. We're competing. Damn you.
Not at all.
Yeah. Sorry. Publicly, we're competing.
We're really competing by having you on the podcast several times over.
Friend of the show.
It's a friendly rivalry we have. So basically we write news, reviews, do giveaways, interviews and so much more over at www.miketendo64.com. We currently have a series of interviews with an Ian Flynn. Now if the name doesn't sound familiar, he's worked on a lot of books and mangas. He's heavily involved with the Sonic the Hedgehog series.
Yeah.
So games and story comics and stuff like that. Not the films, but the rest of the Sonic stuff. He's worked on the Hyrule Historia. I believe it's on the Hyrule Historia or the Creating a Champion, one of the Zelda books for Dark Horse. He also did the Super Mario Encyclopedia and is behind the cancelled ARMS comic.
Oh,
the manga.
Wow, yeah.
So, he worked on that. We've got a very, very good interview over on Mike Tender 64 for that. We are also getting ready for Endless Ocean Luminous when that releases in 2 weeks. So I've posted a feature going into a deep dive of the series and our love for it, as well as
quite literal deep dive.
I love it.
Oh yes, literally going into our own personal history as certified scuba divers as well, when talking about our experiences there too. So that will be enough for me. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky as well. Yeah. And if you ever want to chat or whatever or game, then do send us a DM on Twitter or X as it's called now, or any of our social media. Redact that.
Come on. Kylie, just quickly, obviously before we finish, you don't get to do this on the main show too much. Please plug your Twitch channel and your series.
Oh goodness. Okay. If you find yourself bored on Tuesdays, I like to do a little kind of side podcast. Sometimes it's a podcast, sometimes it's streaming games. Called Grins and Giggles. It is over at Kylie, K-I-L-E-Y _ Wild, W-I-L-D-E, over on Twitch, where a lot of times I hang out with my quote-unquote permanent guest, as I call her, Jenny, and sometimes we laugh, and sometimes we play Fortnite.
Yes.
Because she's teaching me, because she's very good, and I'm not very good. But she's really good, so there you go.
Awesome.
But what about you, Pete, and all of your many podcasts?
Well, I'd say many podcasts. It's only the one at the moment.
It's just the one
So
Just
podcast,
the one.
actually.
I'm
Just the
glad
one.
someone mentioned that. Yeah, so it's the Neville Watchers, which is a movie and TV show based podcast that we do every couple of weeks. We've taken a little bit of time off. The most recent episode that we did was June Part 1. We're coming back to June in May, actually, with the release of the Blu-ray of Chapter 2, or Part 2, sorry. But next up, we're going to be covering the Marvel TV show Echo, 5 episodes of that, and that will be sometime in very early May that we'll be doing that. So check your feeds for that. That's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, so long as it still exists, and several other bad podcast players that I can't mention. But yeah, other than that, I've got
Bad
nothing else to
podcast.
say.
Very bad podcast. I'm
Oh, bad
sorry.
podcast players, yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Pete,
But that's
that
it for me.
reminds me. Actually, what we should probably say. And
Aha, yes. Two things quickly. I won't mention Timeless too much, but Timeless Gaming Convention in August. Rapid 24 for 15% off the
please do.
tickets.
Please do. Just one
I-
time. Just one person.
Yeah. But the main one that we want to mention is obviously that we will be there next week.
Yes!
Next week, actually, in 5 days' time, as the crow flies, on Thursday,
Woo!
the 25th.
25th.
To the 27th
Yep.
at the Truman Brewery in London, which is WASD. It will be the first time that me and Kylie will actually be doing an in-person thing together,
It's weird.
and it will be amazing. Mags will be there, a few other people will be there, so we're organising a
I'll be there.
meetup. We will. Jack will be there, so we will be organising
Nana will
meetup.
be
Please
there.
please keep your eye out on Discord. Keep your eye out on Twitter. We will post the details nearer the time. It's likely to be the Friday evening, but we
Probably.
will make sure that there is something available for the Saturday when, as we know, more people are going to be joining then. But we're still ironing out a fair few of the little intricate parts of the details, so we'll keep you informed. Kylie has been otherwise preoccupied the last few days with a certain little gremlin over in
Little?
Ireland.
I don't think so.
Sorry, Mags. I didn't mean to call you a gremlin.
Oh,
I did mean to call you little.
He's
Um,
not little.
Little gremlin.
But yeah, please come and find us. Come and collar us. If you're going to be at WASD, at our Radio Pod on Twitter.
Yes.
If you want to get in touch, we have already organised a few things with a few people on there, and it would be amazing to see anyone who is there come and hang out with us.
You can
It'll
see
be
how
great.
tall I actually am, which is very tall.
That's going to make me feel really uncomfortable.
No, I think, Pete, I
And
think
kind of in full cosplay.
oh, I want to be. Believe me, I want to be.
Yeah.
I will be probably at Timeless. But
Awesome.
Pete, I think you're only half an inch taller than me. So
Yeah, because that
That'll be
half
fun.
an inch makes all the difference.
then I might be wearing heels, so I'll probably just be taller than you anyway.
Damn it, that half an inch did not make a difference.
But I think that'll do it for the show. If you are a watcher, you might want to stick around for 2 or 3 minutes for our post show. And if you're not, if
Yes.
you're a listener, you should come join us at twitch.tv/Rapid Reviews. We do a pre and post show. They're very short, don't worry. Usually, but they are quite funny. So I'm going to wrap it up. So I want to thank Mike Tindo for joining us, friend of the show.
Thank you very much. A pleasure as always.
I'd say it's always a pleasure to have you on. It's always a great riot. Very good show. I loved it because I'm a nerd. I'm a Fallout nerd, and I loved every second of this. But that's going to do it for us. So I was... Oh, wait, Pete. We are doing a show next week, aren't we? So I will see...
No. There'll be an episode. It might be different to what you're expecting. But keep an eye out for it. But it won't be live streamed. That's all we'll say.
Yes. So we will see you and talk to you in some form or another next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The explosion's bigger than my thumb. Bye.
I'm glad, Pete, that's the explosion you decided to talk about and not...
The pimple.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. I'm glad.
I'm going to have
as
to
well.
love you and
Yes.
leave you now, guys.
Yes,
It's
yes.
been lovely talking with you.
Thank you
and
so
being
much,
on the
Mike.
podcast.
Amazing.
And I will catch up with you, and I will definitely
Thank
be tuning
you.
into your pre-recorded stream, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
this
it will be.
Recorded
Yes.
episode to some degree.
Yes.
Right.
All right. I'll check it out.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you
Amazing.
so
Okay, guys.
much.
Very
It's
much.
been great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Kylie, I'll be back in 1 second. 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. I'll hang out with chat. How are you
And
doing,
I'm back.
chat? Oh no,
And I'm
Pete's
back.
already back.
I know. I actually want to address this one
Sure.
just quickly because this isn't something that came up in the chat from Jack Tendo 92.
Sure.
He asked the question: Roy Kent or Jamie Tart?
Oh goodness, there you go.
He's here. He's there. He's every fucking where. Roy Kent. Roy Kent is he's the best character in Ted Lasso. He's fantastic.
Oh my goodness.
My God. So I want to talk about it because I have
Yes.
not had anyone to talk to about Ted
gosh,
Lasso
yes.
yet.
Go
Oh my
ahead.
God. There's a reason why I said it is the best TV I've watched this week.
It is very good.
I finished the season. I took Apple TV free trial just solely to watch it.
Right, okay.
I was in tears at the end. Actual tears.
Laughter or moved to tears?
Moved to tears.
Oh,
It was
wow.
beautiful.
Aw.
The ending was fantastic, and I'm so
Aw.
honestly, I'm actually glad that they didn't do the whole cliche thing that they did actually win the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so glad that they left it until that last section to say obviously about it, but it made sense. It made total
100%.
sense.
100%.
I actually thought that something more sinister was going to happen at the end as well. But
Right.
I'm glad that it didn't. But honestly, please, Apple, if you've ever listened to anything, never do another series. Ever. Ever.
Because it won't compare?
Because they ended it so perfectly.
I
It will
agree.
never compare. Rebecca got her really happy, fantastic ending. Roy gets his, his great ending. Obviously, you never know really what happens with Keely and Jamie and Roy. That's fine.
Yeah.
No issues with that. The team's going to do well. Probably they're going to be kept in good stead for the Champions League.
Yep.
He gets to go back to his son, and it's.
Oh,
There's also the undertone as well that there's a potential that him and Michelle could get back together at some point because the disinterest in the last episode with the football game from the partner. There's so many threads that they could tug on, but it's best to leave it a little bit more ambiguous, and I love that.
I absolutely agree. 100%. I do like what Jack Tendo said. Roy Kent is the best. Especially when he got annoyed with everyone because no one stood up for him to state his arse isn't hairy. Very good.
Honestly, it became a bit
So
of
good.
a recurring thing because my dad also watched it.
Aww.
That bastard made me lose my place because he breezed through it quicker than I did.
Oh, wow.
So I had to go back and obviously find out where I was.
Right.
But Roy Kent is my dad when he was playing football. He really is. We were describing this. He was my mum was watching it little bits with him, and she said, "You are Roy Kent. You really are." And he just went, "Yep." It's so we were talking about it when we were playing golf together. It was it was beautiful. I loved that series.
Speaking of golf, Pete, and I know again that it was mini golf, which is not your bag because you do real golf.
No,
Golf.
I love a bit of mini golf actually. It's the one side of my game I need to improve. It's my putting.
Well, there was 4 of us, me, Mags, and then my 2 friends. Who are married. They're a married couple. It's my trainer at the gym.
Oh yeah, I was actually going to say that, but I didn't want to give anything away.
Well, I'll say that much at least. I came in last place. Mags and my friend's wife basically tied at 46, 47. They were tied.
Oh, nice.
I came in at 77.
Oh man, you should have taken one shot off.
Shows you the disparity.
Look, you finished on 77.
I did.
You should have just taken one shot off and just been 76.
Oh gosh. That would be my luck.
It would have been, yeah. But at least you didn't come out broken and buggy.
It's true, but it was a post-apocalyptic setting.
Amazing.
I don't know why I didn't get... I got one picture of Mags, because that's all I really care about. But I should have got more pictures, because it was amazing the way it was set up. It was... Yeah. You could tell there were nods to Fallout all through it.
Amazing. I really like that.
Yeah, it was very cool. I cannot fault the aesthetics of it. Or amazing. the challenge of the putting the holes.
Yeah. There's been a few courses that I've played that actually, like with mini golf, that have been really, really hard actually.
Oh my gosh.
Like, some of them really tough. There was one that I played down in Weymouth actually, like down the south, like sort of the south coast of England.
Oh right.
And it's very, very difficult. Me and Rachel went down there for like a long weekend away once.
Yeah.
And it was great fun. But yeah, it was just a tough old course.
Max got 2 holes in 1. And it's not a euphemism.
No, there was definitely that case or two. Hey.
I'm not answering that, but in addition to, I got 2 holes in 1, and I was just like, what? Because these are, if you don't know what mini golf is, and I hope that everyone does, but it's golf, but it's got little challenges you have to kind of work around.
If you've ever watched Happy Gilmore, where he goes to Putt Putt Land, I think it is called, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's that.
Yeah, and and I kept going. It's all in the hips.
It's all in the hips. It's all in the hips.
But
I'm just trying to get you loose, baby.
Exactly, that's it. Pete knows. Yeah, Max got 2 holes in 1. I never got a hole in 1. In fact, there was a 6-stroke limit. The last 3 holes, I got 6 strokes on, Pete. That tells you how bad it was for me. I was also very tired.
I also don't want to make that joke.
Oh, dear. 6 strokes, yes. Some would say
6
less.
Strokes? All it takes.
Sometimes less. But...
Oh.
Yeah, I'm actually, we'll wrap up very, very quickly in a bit. Shall. But I am looking forward to this. I'm going to say this weekend. It starts Thursday, goes till Saturday. WASD, if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's going to be fun as heck. And yeah, it's weird because, like, it'll be the first time Pete and I are doing anything in person.
4.5 years that we've done this in.
I can already tell it's not going to feel like it's going to be like, okay.
No, I'm literally just going to walk up to you, high five you, and just be like, what up, bud? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's cool. It's so funny.
You're my pal. Like, we have been for 4 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
The first 6 months don't count. That was getting to know each other.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I'll have Max with me, and that will be funny.
Yeah. So we'll just say it quickly now, obviously, for those on the stream, that our episode next week is going to be a pre-recorded affair.
Yep.
Basically, what we're going to do... No, I've already figured the plan out. Okay. So, actually, the keen observer might have noticed that something in my background is already readily available. My travel microphone.
See, I've got one too, Pete.
So, I will be taking this one. I will be taking that one. Mm-hmm. We're going to try and make sure that we have one rotating guest each day.
Yep.
And we are basically going to record for about 30 to 45 minutes each day, wrapping up basically what we've done across the day, our thoughts on it, and then I'm going to edit that down into an episode to come out on the Monday morning.
I was going to say...
with some commentary.
I'm pretty sure you got the same email. Max got the same email. Another creator got it, which says that, congratulations, you've been chosen as a content creator, but you have to post content, so we'll be posting content.
I did get that one as well, but we will be making sure there's loads of content up there. We'll be posting pictures up on the Twitter and the Discord and all that, so check it out. We obviously won't have something on Twitch, but there will be there might be an audio version go up on YouTube as well.
We could probably do a random Twitch thing, only like 5 or 10 minutes.
We might be able to, yeah.
Just depends on the mood,
Yeah, it's just the internet connection's always really spotty around that area, so like
Right.
it's never
Good
the
point.
easiest thing. But maybe if one of us has a phone or an iPad or something, we can tether up to the Wi-Fi and we can just do a
Yeah.
quick Twitch check-in and do all of that. So yeah, we'll figure something out. But yeah, there'll be probably a 2-hour possible episode next week where we will be doing our deep dive into what we played and what we saw on the day.
I need to get you a email of a person.
Yeah, please do. We'll talk
got
about
to
that
do
in a
that.
minute.
But I need to go because I drank an entire bottle of wine and half a bottle of another wine, and I have to go
Drank
to
a
the
whole
potty.
cup of tea,
Yeah, it's
Pepsi
time
Max,
for
and
potty
half a bottle of
break.
water.
Yep, potty break.
Yes.
But we do thank everyone for stopping by. This has been a great episode for me because I am a Fallout nerd.
Well, I've really enjoyed it anyway because I love talking films and TV. So
right, I do think that this is a great jumping on point for anyone who's not, previously been involved with Fallout, because I know a lot of people are kind of hesitant. Again, Max probably is not going to like Fallout, but I think he will
maybe not. No.
I think he'll like the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really do. But I obviously am crazy cuckoo nuts over it. So you'll probably catch me playing Fallout 4 at some point this week. My modded version, yes. To add to my 3,228 hours. That's insane,
Nice.
Pete. That is a lot.
I did notice as well that there was there a sale on quite a lot of the games?
There is. Yes.
I
Not
might
only
go
is there
and
a
buy
sale,
New Vegas on PC then.
But they've also done a Fallout collection as well. I forgot where that's coming out. I don't know if that was Steam or the Xbox.
Can't remember, but either way, I'll have a look at it.
But I think that's going to do it for us tonight.
Yes.
So we thank everyone for joining us. It's been a great show. We thank so much Mike for joining us earlier.
Amazing stuff as always.
Absolutely.
Also, I had to be very silent about the interview series because I got told by a certain Jack at that Princess Peach event, so I've known about it for a long time.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it very much.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a damn good read. So expect feedback, Jack. Expect lots of it. Eventually.
Okay, I think that's gonna do it for us. So we are going to say good night.
And we will see you next week.